Inside at last.
Welcome, fellow Teffers, to Inside at Last, the one and only thief dedicated podcast. My name is Alex, and again, I am joined by Jake and Seth. It's Jeff.
We can call me Jeff now. From now on, I shall be known as Jeff.
No,
I'd be okay with
you
that.
both like it's the mix of both of you, Jeff or
We're Jeff.
Sake. Yeah, how are you guys?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. How are you, Alex?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, are you happy with the feedback you both got from the community about your great presence?
Yeah, it was great. I was very happy to hear that people were glad to receive us.
Yep, I was. I was very pleasantly not surprised, but I was surprised by how the outpouring of support. It was really nice to see, and I'm glad that everybody enjoyed it. And hopefully, no pressure. We can continue to pump out great content for you guys.
Okay. So, Seth just told me that my microphone is echoing. Is it still the problem?
No, it's solved now.
I don't know. Maybe the cable. I hope it's.
I think you were just having a feedback issue because you were also streaming, but it's resolved.
Yeah, I hope so. That this is not. Yeah. So if anyone is watching on the Twitch today, because this is our first live show here on the web, but we will of course also record it for the usual podcast consumer. You might interact in the chat with us. Maybe one of you can tell us like if you can hear us and if everything's all right. What's our topic today? Maybe one of you guys might tell us.
We're talking about our top 3 favorite Thief 1 missions. Original missions.
Yeah, or let's say Thief Gold, I think. Because I think 2 of mine are Thief Gold exclusive missions, if I'm right. But
well, that's a dead giveaway.
Ooh, I have one on my list too. I have one on my list, so.
Yeah, so we didn't tell before this episode like what our missions are, so there's maybe a little surprise in there. But why we could do that was I recently replayed the whole game because it's like 10 years or something that I really played Thief 1 or Thief Gold. So I was replaying it and I was surprised by many things. And so we figured like this is a great opportunity since my memory is refreshed. That we could talk about it.
So, Alex, I want to ask you real quick before you get into it. What did you think going back through it after so long? It's been a long time.
Yeah, actually, it was strange because missions that I had in my mind, like as really bad, or that I thought I hated them, that I really liked them, and missions that in my memory were really great, they were like, it's not as great as I had it in my memory. But I know why for certain missions because for the ones that surprised me in a positive way, I'm not afraid anymore. So I'm so used to the mechanics and stuff. So it's just like we said in our Why We Love Thief podcast. Yeah, it's just the puzzle game now. The elements are not haunting me anymore and are not freaking me out. So that's
you can see the strings being pulled. You can see the strings being pulled and stuff.
Yeah, and that's a great difference, and yeah, it was very enjoyable for me.
If we get to one of those on your list that you maybe didn't like before and like now, maybe shout it out. I find that so interesting that you've now come to it with a fresh perspective.
First of all, if people want to see my failing in the game, I've added my whole run of the game on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. There's a nice playlist for you with every mission as an individual episode. And but to your question, I would give away 2 missions already that now are on my top list that before I had in my mind like as really bad. But I can tell you one mission that underwhelmed me a bit was Undercover.
Really?
Yeah, but
you tell.
Is it one of your favorites? One of yours?
I won't say.
No,
You're gonna
because
have to
then
find out.
I'll spoil it. It's not on my list, but I do like it. I recently went back and also played through Thief Gold, and I like Undercover, but it's not on my top 3.
maybe it's like, yeah, if it's on your list, Seth, maybe you want to already tell, and then we could talk about this.
Yeah, I'll spill the beans. It's on my list as one of my favorites.
Ooh, I like that.
So let's talk about Undercover.
Sure. So I like Undercover because the first time I played through Thief, I was still not super clear on the limitations of the game, right? I didn't understand like um, what would give me away or how I may or may not get caught. So I really enjoyed Undercover because it was sort of an exploration of what, first of all, the day to day life of the Hammers was going to be like, and second of all, what it would be like to infiltrate without needing to hide. And I'm not sure that there's even been a fan mission that has explored that sort of territory since. I really, really
That's a
liked
good
Undercover.
that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know if I can't recall anything that I've played from the fans that has explored that aspect of social stealth. I think they refer to it as. Is that what you call it, Seth?
I've never heard that, but I like that.
That's what I've heard. It's sort of a precursor to things like Hitman and stuff
Yeah,
like that, where you're hiding in plain sight.
I'm just thinking of Hitman at the same thing. When you said social stealth, that's a nice word.
Yeah, so the idea that, you're not necessarily a intruder on site, but doing things suspiciously, like in this mission, can give you away. So very similar to games that would come after. So super innovative, I think.
It's also very front loaded. Like you show up to the gate and you provide your writ to enter. And I believe the first conversation you hear when you enter the main hall is two guys talking about steam burning a novice for doing something wrong. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me if I get found? The stakes are high. And moments later, you're digging through places that you're not supposed to be going, right? There's all those forbidden rooms. And if you're playing on a harder difficulty, I don't even think you can knock hammers out while you're doing this. So you just have to like spring the lock and get inside before they catch you doing it.
So I think you can knock them out without getting caught. And this is another thing about the mission is that the rules of, I think, what you can and can't get away with are not 100% clear. But I think as long as you knock people out and you hide them in such a way that the guards will not find them or the guards will not sort of interact with the pieces of the environment that are missing, you're fine. Because actually recently, like I was saying, redid Thief Gold and I did Undercover, and I went through it and I like picked off all the guards like one by one without them ever getting suspicious. And I think if you're careful about where you hide them and what you steal and things like that, you can get away with doing the whole mission without ever alerting the guards.
Yeah, it's definitely ghostable.
I think this
Personally,
is
I'm not a
actually an
ghoster.
invitation to Ghost because it has these areas where it's maybe pretty easy, not to you can move. Oh, of course. What is the rule in that mission actually? Like, you have to be seen, right? So I
Yes.
don't remember it from Cletremus play, but yeah, you had to do it. How do you know, guys know?
So I know that like with the mission, you mean in terms of the ways to initiate like not a fail state, but like a getting caught, aggroing the guards, so to speak.
No, but normally, it should be like you've not been seen. That's the ghosting topic. So, but if you play it after the rules of the mission, it's indicated you have to enter it somehow and be seen. Officially. So
No
is that
second level alerts. No
okay? So
recognition or
they are
hunting
not
alerts.
alerted. So okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So
So
something I think is really cool, sorry, real quick, is that we're talking about sort of the parameters of the mission. I know that the guards will notice if loot is missing, and they usually don't do that in most of their missions. Like if you take the first piece of loot from the entrance to the monastery, the guards in the lobby will get suspicious and then attack
that
you if
was
they
my
see you.
problem. Because in my run, I was wondering like, why are they alerted? I hit the bodies very well, um, but
I think they only achieve alert status if they see you steal it. I think if you manage to send them away and get them not to look while you steal it, you're okay. I seem to recall stealing that gold hammer by shooting an arrow into the corner and having the guard like follow the sound and then taking it while his back is turned. So obviously I didn't ghost it, but
I think every time something went wrong in my game, it was just a bug, of course. It couldn't be my fault. Um, but yeah, to the mission. This is the mission I really remembered very well from my early days of Thief. I cheated until that point, until I found a mission that is somehow suiting me and they're not very scary. So I had this like with high regards on my mind, like, oh, this was an amazing mission, and I like the theme. That's actually a really cool thing, and the variety, keeps the variety fresh. And that was actually a thing that I was surprised how much variety within the mission there is in Thief 1. But this one sticks out, and I was entering it and was like, oh yeah, it's cool. But then after a while it was like a bit boring in my opinion. And then my main issue with the mission is that it's very gamey with a 5, or what is it? Yeah, I think it's on a normal level it's 5 switches to find. And you have
5 minutes.
Yeah,
5
and
minutes.
it's
like,
very puzzle oriented for an original mission.
And
I
that's
don't
not
think
even
there's
a
another
puzzle. It's not. It has nothing. It's not. Adding. Not asking my intelligence. It's just finding that. That you can do that. You just have to find them, or you have to
Yeah.
find that
I
list.
mean,
Yeah,
puzzle-
you can. There's the list, and
I
then
mean, in
yeah,
a loose sense, like it's a stealth puzzle. You have to find these levers while some of them are in areas you're not allowed to be, I believe.
yeah, but still, it's like. I don't know. I don't like that element. It's very arts, not artsy fartsy. It's very artificial.
It's like a key hunt.
Yeah, and that's not, it starts out really great, and then the twist is like just let's call it a simple puzzle game.
Yeah.
And imagine like those old Hammerite priests,
They never bothered to pull these.
like running through the temple, like really. Oh wait, I just have 30 seconds, and then they are standing right in front of the artifact, and then then it closes again. Like
It is pretty
damn
absurd. It is pretty absurd. Like, why would somebody build this contraption? Like, it's like built like you said, Alex. It's really video gamey. If you think about it, it's like you have 5 minutes to hit these 5 switches that are all on the opposite side, and like, what would they do? Would they all would each priest go to a switch and yell like, "All right, I'm here, like I'm ready. Go ahead, pull it."
That was my next thought. Like,
Brother Gerald has locked himself inside the talisman room again. Send the novice to pull the levers post haste and free him.
I think we found a fan mission actor. If you haven't already said,
I haven't,
it was
but
really
I'm
great.
Open for hire.
Yeah.
Well, something I like about the mission, to bring it sort of back to something positive, I like the size of it. I think it's a good size. It's one of the smaller maps. It's hard to get lost in Undercover for the most part. I mean, it is maybe sometimes a little bit tricky to imagine your mind, like the order of the switches that you need to hit, but I think it's a solid map because it's a lot smaller and less maze-like than some of the other maps in Thief Cold.
That's a
I don't know what
plus,
you guys
yeah.
think.
It's there's no monsters, at least in your first visit of that area.
That's another reason why I really like that one, is because it's used twice.
Yeah, this one is twice used in a good way, I think. I think in the first game, they did that in both games, but in the first game they did it better, way better, actually. That is something that also surprised me again.
100%. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, the reuse of maps is a lot stronger in the first game.
I'll save most of this opinion, but casing the joint followed by masks was not an amazing decision.
I'm just thinking of those, and of course, what is it? Not ambush and tracing the courier. Which is, like in both Return to the Cathedral and what was the other? Go to the Cathedral, or what was? I don't know the title.
It's just the Haunted Cathedral. Yeah.
But it's of course it's different because they use the cathedral, of course, just the front of the cathedral in the second one, and then of course the area goes bigger into the cathedral parts.
It's a nice
But
tease. It's a nice
yeah,
tease because
and,
you get to the front door and you're like, okay, I like
and
this is cool, but how do I get in?
in undercover, and what is the other name of the mission? Where you visit the second time.
Strange bedfellows.
This
Strange
right,
bedfellows.
and this is something that people really like. Like, okay, you see the place when it's working, when it's everything is normal, and then you see it in a destroyed way, like, and that's always a cool thing, like revisiting a place that's suddenly changed.
Plus spiders. Spiders improve any map.
I don't know what you're talking about, but they are the least non-human, the least annoying non-human enemies, I think.
It's really
What
cool.
about
I
the
think
red
too.
ones that web you?
Oh yeah,
Oh
those.
yeah, great enemies.
I think
Quick,
it's
left
cool.
click to drop the webs. Sorry, Jake.
I think
go
it's cool.
ahead.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I think it's cool, like what you were saying, Alex. So piggyback off what you said, like when you go and revisit a map, especially like in an older game like Thief, it feels very like reactive, right? Like Thief is all about reacting to your decisions, like making sound, appearing in light, guards seeing you, and in a way, like changing the map or using a map again in like a clever way, like Undercover and Strange Bedfellows do, is really it kind of brings you in with that sense of immersion because the map is changing, the world is changing, and it feels so much like what Thief does so well. It makes the world feel so much bigger.
It solidifies it.
Exactly.
It's a real place. The places they don't just disappear when the level finishes.
Yep. Exactly.
I will say, I think Undercover's weakest point is that the tension is very fragile. It works the first time you play through if you're still learning the mechanics or if you're still unsure of things. But I think once it feels systematic, once you understand all the patrols, it becomes kind of a chore, as you said, like walking back and forth between the levers. So I think the trick is keeping that suspension of disbelief and stopping it from feeling like a chore in a mission like Undercover.
I do wish that they would have explored the idea of the social stealth and the hiding in plain sight in Thief 2 or in a future Thief game because it was really
it's not revisited.
not used again. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like it's not
Imagine
used
if
again
Thief
at all.
3 had an Undercover mission.
Or Thief 2, where you maybe, you have to get certain parts for a servant, and as a mechanist servant, and then you have
the same thing.
And then you have to interact like to act like one of them and have really limited things you could do. I think there's a fan mission where you play as a servant, but that's different. But that would have been great. But maybe they thought, and I could give them that, like, this would really be like, the same idea twice.
Well, one could almost do a Thief spin-off campaign where you you play as like a master disguise artist, like an infiltration specialist, where you play as like each of the factions and steal something of value. I don't know. I think that'd be fun.
Well, going back to casing the joint in masks, it's like, wouldn't have that been a great idea to use Undercover, like those concepts in something like masks or casing the joint, where there's one of them where you have to play more traditionally stealth, where you're hiding in the shadows, not making noise, and there's another one where you come in and like Garrett's maybe like Garrett's like a servant or like a party guest or something, and then it kind of changes the dynamic of reusing that map twice. Is that you have a different dimension of stealth in play.
You're making it sound like a missed opportunity.
I know, sounds good, but that's why brainstorming.
Yeah, so I think still it's a good mission, it has a very interesting idea from the beginning. And of course when you play it for the first time, you're like, okay, how should this work? It's very exciting, I think. And as you said, like the map is, you can learn it easily and it's kind of logical, and so it's still a good one, but I was a bit underwhelmed back from my memories, but it was okay for me because I had other missions that really did the opposite, or maybe even more, like the disappointment here was not so big, like the surprises I had with other missions.
puzzles only work once, right? If you've done them, even if it's been a long time, you still understand what most of the solution is.
Yeah, and since you played some of the amazing fan missions with puzzles, like from Nicked, this is pretty simple here now. Then
Yeah, I have a friend who talks about stuff like that. He says that like oftentimes if you play the original and you leave it for a while and you play some derivatives, when you go back to the original, it feels very trite and played out. But that's because it did it first, right? It was
Of course.
super novel the first time, and since so many different people have iterated on it, it can begin to feel very standard. So it's important to remember like when something did something first, why it feels like it's been done when you return to it.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, that makes totally sense, and I'm on the same page there. So, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I think I've had everything I had to say about that. I'd put it in my top half of the missions. I probably maybe like it a little bit more than you do, Alex, but maybe not as much as you do, Seth. But I think it's a very good mission.
I put Undercover as my number 2 favorite mission.
You really you had really places. Okay. I don't. Mine are not in order. Mine are just like my top 3. But
Yeah, mine are as well. It's
Mine
hard.
are-
It was hard for me to order them.
yeah,
Mine
right.
are all more or less equal. They're in order of how quickly they came to mind, not
Okay.
necessarily how popular they are in the hierarchy.
Because I was really really thinking about it. Like I had 7 missions for choice. So yeah.
I had 5. I did 3 plus 2.
Oh yeah. It's like yeah, 7 is almost half of all the missions in gold.
That's like when I picked my favorite missions when I was thinking of this, and I was also thinking of it for Thief 2. Like I was like, oh, like yeah, that's a favorite. That's a favorite. I'm like making the list. I'm like, I have half the missions in the game on my list. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's so tough.
it's
So
hard to
tough to
choose
eliminate ones.
because a lot of the original missions set the tone for the fan missions that would follow, right? The original missions are the playbook for like a vast array of fan missions that all have different plots but follow a formula, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, really good point.
Thief 1 is like a bag of party mix, and Thief 2 is like all dressed.
Yep, exactly. The first game, I feel like I don't know how you feel, Alex, because you also recently replayed it, but the first game feels more experimental, and in some of those experiments, I think really work, and other ones are not so good. And definitely, the second game is much more like focused, and it polishes that one thing that it does really, really well.
I think I totally agree. Yes. And but I can see why many people still prefer Thief 1 because this experimental and different thing, it's a different experience. Both games, of course, have their core gameplay, which doesn't change, and the graphics just improve a bit. But yeah, it's something different, and that's why I can totally see why there are 2 camps, because one camp prefers this, and one camp prefers that, and they still are, come together when it comes to the Thief gameplay in general. But the themes and the looks of the city and all the places and the kind of places you visit and the enemies and stuff, that's so different. But on the other hand, it's again shows like how much variety is in Thief.
Absolutely. I think some of the reasons I picked the missions I picked was because they, as far as Thief 1 goes, they have a very specific look to them. And the missions that I picked as my favorites, like Undercover could be said to be a bit generic, I guess, but I think I picked them also because they have more of a Thief 1 flavor.
Yeah.
They use specific texture sets that just feel Thief 1.
Yeah, ugly, I would say.
Yeah.
But garish and bright colors are so medieval.
That is so, that is something that I think I said that a lot of times in my Let's Play. Like, especially in Undercover, when you stand in front of the gate and this ugly texture of that
Mustard yellow tiles.
and no, this blue one, I mean the real gate, like the front, they also use it at the cathedral at the front, this white blue.
Yep.
And then at the cathedral you have those
Slate
they-
blue stones
they
and
look
mustard
like
floors.
like violet window arts, like that looks like from a 1980s PC chroma. It's ugly, but I don't know. Wah, it's really ugly.
I think some of that is an artifact of the way the textures were made, right? Since some of them were scanned, I think some of them had to be color treated to eliminate all sorts of artifacts that would have come from the scanning.
I
Just
can
a
see that,
theory.
but they should have painted them, by themselves. They had Daniel and lots of other great artists, so it
There
was.
was I think a subtle art change. I think going from 1 to 2. Graphically, I think the engine received probably a minimal update from what I understand. If anybody knows more, correct me. But I think that the second game made more smarter, deliberate art choices that kind of help disguise sort of some of the low poly and some of the scans and things like that. So it's not really so much a huge technical upgrade. I think it was more of like how they used the tools that they had available. I think from going from Thief 1 to Thief 2 was a big improvement.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that's a good point. I think
but
we're sneaking away from our subject.
I just wanted to say so. But let's go back. But of course, you had the better
Pun?
metaphor or whatever to Thief. So Jake, tell us about one of your top 3 missions.
Sure. I have a feeling this might be on your list from what you foreshadowed earlier, but I put Song of the Caverns on my list.
Ooh,
Seriously?
what a
Yeah.
coincidence!
Yeah.
Lady Valerius.
That's Seth. We have to get you in a fan mission. But so what I like about this mission, well, first off, I just think that the premise of robbing an opera house is just so awesome. Like how many games,
Wait. I think the first thing before you come to the opera house, you're starting like, oh no, another cavern.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true. That's
when-
exactly my experience when I played this mission, Alex. When you said that,
You read the title, you're like, oh no, and then you go down, and then you hear those, how were they called?
Craymen, I think.
The Craymen, yeah, and stuff like, and you're like totally annoyed, and then suddenly you rope up to that one place, and then there's that. You hear that singing from far away, and you're like, what is going on here? And then you see that strange guy and Hagrid, and then this.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who was reminded of Hagrid, but go on.
He is totally.
He
Hagrid,
does.
Yeah.
He does look Hagrid-esque. But
And-
I had that
and then,
exact experience.
Then and then the mission starts to become something really special. After you think like, oh, caverns again, and I think they knew that, and they, since this is also, is it Thief Gold exclusive? No.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So I have. Yeah, right. You guys told me that this was planned for Thief 2, actually, right?
Yep. Yeah. If you watch the making of Thief 2 documentary that came out, I think in like '99, and I mean Thief Gold and Thief 2 were pretty much being worked on at the same time. I think Terry. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Terry Brocious mentions that they're making Song of the Caverns for Thief 2, which is just like, as somebody who loves Song of the Caverns and I prefer Thief 2 over Thief 1, that just blows my mind. Because like, imagine if like Thief 2, like you have like Life of the Party and like Song of the Caverns, like you have all these missions.
I think
like,
they should have
overload.
saved it for Thief 2.
Ooh, I like that take.
What I wanted to say was, I think they really had this on their mind, because at that point they had the feedback of the fans and the feedback of many fans, and I think that's why they changed a lot to different themes in Thief 2, was that they were like, let's tease them, let's start with the same shit people don't like. and
that was my experience playing the mission. Like for the first time, I was like, oh, like this is another, like these tunnels are so bland. I mean, you guys are talking really about textures. I mean, those textures in the cavern is so they're ugly, and I was like, oh, Crayman. I was like, this is so boring. Like this is awful. And then like once you get to like the street, and once the opera house comes into focus, it's like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. It's really good, subverting your expectations. Really good bait and switch.
The change of tone is so drastically, and I could imagine like how the designers were like, hey, let's do this, you know, like hey, they won't like it, but then they will love it, you know, like that.
Yeah, it does feel a very like designer like thing where you're like sort of like you're pulling the strings, like I was saying earlier about you're playing people's emotions, like you're
So-
introducing one thing and then another.
So I interrupted you earlier when you was already starting to explain why the mission is so great to you. So, but I
No,
thought
no,
it's
that was a
very-
great interruption, because actually you reminded me of that was my exact experience playing the mission. Like I sometimes put that out of my mind, but the first time I played Thief Gold, which was not as long ago maybe as some other people, but the first time playing it, I just remember like hating those tunnels and like the Crane Man, and then you get to that part where there's that trap and there's that writing on the wall or on the floor, and it's like, oh, this is terrible. But I just love the aspect of the fact that having the opera house, it's like so different. You do a lot of mansions, and you do the police station, you do some different things in Thief, but I think the opera house is just such a cool concept, because that really wouldn't work too well in other games that aren't about thieving. Like you can't really imagine like say like a gunfight in an opera house. Really, you'd have to come up with some sort of contrived excuse to make that conflict happen.
Have
But
you
with
played
Thief-
Blood Money?
I have. There is it. It's not a. It's a theater. Well, I mean, I guess an opera house is a theater, but it's a play
How
that's
could
going
you?
on. It's a play that's going on in that mission.
I'll
I know
play
what
at
mission
an
you're
opera
talking about.
house.
So, but no, I mean that's true. But I mean, there's very few games where I think that setting of having an opera house could be pulled off and still be so like engaging, and that's just I think the power of Thief.
yeah, but I think that's actually one of the most important points of the experience of the mission, like the change of tone, like that you suddenly are in that. I don't know if there are many ways to come into the theater, but I came through the basement, and
There's a few. There's two ways in the basement. You can go through there's two front doors. Like there's a lot.
yeah, and I came through the basement, and I think it's like kind of the attended way somehow, because I like it. The whole mission builds up, from this awful caverns, and then you are in the basement, and you see parts from sceneries, like what is it called in English? We call it Kulissen in German. Like things that they use to make the scene.
Oh yeah, there's like these like they're like board. I don't know. They're like paintings almost, but they're like I don't know what you
Not
call
the
them.
assets they use to create a scene on the stage. Guys, you are the mother
Props.
tongue here.
Props.
Props, right? So you see that, and then you get an idea of okay, this has a really cool theme, and then you get upstairs and it becomes more beautiful. Yeah, it looks more Thief 2 like, with the warmer colors and the warmer textures, more wooden stuff, and it's really beautiful and nicely done. And what I like is you read very early. You read about I couldn't recall her name, but she's like the director of the theater.
Lady Valerius.
Lady Valerius, thank you very much.
Perfect.
And you read a lot from her, like and she's like, I think very yeah, I don't know, like a like a drill sergeant. And you feel like you get the tone, like there must be something more to it. I didn't find anything, but I didn't fully play it to every detail. But I like the whole tone of the mission, and yeah, the theme is awesome. Like, yes,
It's so big. Like the map is so big. I mean, I was praising Undercover earlier for being a little bit smaller. Song of the Caverns is a pretty big mission. Like the opera house is huge. And I think for the most part it's easy to navigate. I think the basement, I always get lost in the basement a lot because it's like there's
yeah,
like
it's more Thief
couple
1
different
like.
hallways.
It's more Thief 1 like, because it has those stony walls, and everything looks the same. And that's actually, it just comes to my mind. That's actually like the shifting mission between Thief 1 and Thief 2. You know, like you have that cavern and you have those gray basement stuff, and then
You
yeah,
have a lot of you have a lot of the little. I know what you're saying. You have a lot of the something else I like about it. You have a lot of those little details that little secrets that I think Thief 1 has secrets, but Thief 2 I think steps it up. I think with secrets because you have like
Thief 2
like the
tells you when you found a secret.
yeah.
that's true.
That
Exactly.
I was
Exactly.
actually surprised. I didn't remember that from Thief 1 that it wasn't in the game, and that it's not shown on your stats at the end.
Yeah.
Well, it's the first iteration, right? They didn't realize they needed that.
Of course, but I forgot. I wasn't aware of that. It's because I don't know. Isn't it in fan missions? I think so.
That might be a custom script, though.
Yeah.
With Thief 2, there had been fan missions before the game came out, right? So it's hard to quantify, but I'm sure those fan missions had an impact on development. That would be an interesting dev question.
That would be. That'd be a really good one.
There haven't been so many around at that time. No. Because didn't the Dromad editor just come with Thief 2?
No.
Yeah,
You could- there was a
Yeah.
fan mission in 1998.
Ah, right. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah,
Guardhouse.
right. Was it that one they did together with Looking Glass with help of them?
I'm not sure.
There was one, but there's so many. Yeah, I don't know, but it might be. Yeah, of course they got the feedback. That's why they changed the whole tone. I don't know, but I don't know where they got their feedback from because I have the feeling that like the hardcore fans, that are still around, they love Thief 1 more. So it's interesting, but time for another topic talk another day.
Oh, real quick, a couple more things I like about it because there's so much. I like that I like the secret room that you can get to from the basement going through the furnace.
You don't have to rush. I just wanted to go back to the topic.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. No, I just was there's so much. So, but going through the furnace and going up through that secret room with like the sun kind of medallion thing on the wall. That was cool. I like that there's that one. I think it's on the second or third floor. There's that one like poster you can destroy, and I think you can get up there also from like the ticket booth. But you can kind of go up through the air ducts, basically. I think is basically what you call them. I mean, there's so many different like little hidden ways to get around the Opera House, which is like one of my favorite things about it. And that's kind of what I agree with what you're saying. Like this Song of the Caverns is a really good like bridge mission between like the Thief 1 style and the Thief 2 style because it has those more places you can like infiltrate like Thief 2 does, but you also have like the Craymen and the caverns that you start out in. So I think it is a really good bridge mission between the first and second game. And I love all the loot you can find. And like I stated before, the only thing I would really fix is I'd maybe make the basement a little bit smaller or a little bit more. It's hard to like know where you are in the basement. It's one of those very typical Thief 1 levels where it's like it's very maze-like and it's hard in your mind to sort of place like, okay, I'm here, I need to get here, I was just there.
But to be honest, I didn't have that problem because actually I think that even the basement is pretty easy to navigate. I still have it in my head like how the shape is. It's pretty clear in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as bad as some of the other. It's definitely not the worst offender, but I don't know. For me, it just I
Lost
can never always
City.
find my way. Yeah, it's not that bad, but I can always get lost in the basement. But I think but once you get up from the basement, I think it's very easy to navigate. And going backstage with the sandbags and all the scenery in the background and those metal walkways and so many little cool details in this mission, which is part of why I put it on my list.
And it would actually also fit to Thief 2 because, Thief 2 has those typical places, like the bank and the reach factory and,
Yeah.
like those down-to-earth things. And visiting a theater is actually, or an opera house is actually a great theme for, it was redone in one of, what is his name? He has always the strange names for his missions. I can't get it right now, but he had a theater as well. I remember that in fan missions.
Totally agree. Like what you said, like the down to earth location also makes it more Thief 2-esque because like Thief 2 is like, all right, let's go through all the places where like what money would be. You know what I mean? Like a bank, you know, like a police station, like everything that like every place
Port.
where there'd be
Normal
wealth.
city infrastructure.
Yeah.
I think it was Gort who had one of his missions was in a theater. Just to add that,
Oh, I thought it was Yandros.
maybe he had another one. I don't know at the moment, but I remember this.
Some of Yandros' missions have kind of a Panic at the Disco feel.
Okay.
Enigmatic
Well-
treasure with a recondite discovery.
I think I've said everything if I have to say about Song. If anybody else has anything they want to
Yeah,
add.
Blue Jay on YouTube had a comment under my Let's Play, and he said, I love this mission, my absolute favorite in Thief Gold. I agree with you that it feels like a Thief 2 mission, and that's probably why I like it so much. The twist of not having to
Yeah.
explore caves was a pleasant surprise. The Opera House has some cool architecture, and the attention to detail is impressive, from having ticket counters, stage props, and box seats for the rich. Thanks for the
Exactly.
comment.
Great
I wanna
comment.
Yeah, thanks. I want to throw out my take in addition to this, though, is that everyone says, wow, this mission feels like Thief 2. And that's why I think it should have been saved for Thief 2, because imagine how interesting the mission would have been with the children of Karis. Right? Imagine if the cameras had been added, because my impression of the mission was that it was actually very empty. The basements are patrolled by, I think, 2 guards. And like,
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
fairly.
correct. The challenge is not so big. But
I understand that it's an opera house, right? Security would be minimal anyway.
Well,
But I think
once
it
you
would
get
make more sense if it was automated security.
one thing that totally I totally recognized while playing Thief 1, and here with your idea, it totally is obvious. They at one point in the upper on the upper level of the opera house, I was cornering in a shadow and sitting there, and I knocked out, I think, 4 guards, 1 civilian, and then there were 2 guards in front of her office door standing. So I had a huge pile of guards. So the thing is that the mechanists, like with the cameras and the machines, this was a different threat when it, when you were not in a supernatural area. And just the guards, they needed to balance that by numbers. Suddenly you have so many enemies around.
Yeah,
that
it's
there is
true.
a challenge. And what Seth just said totally makes sense. Like if you would have had cameras or especially in the basement, I think like the Children of Karas, they would have fitted from the size and from the challenge. So
Yeah, I
very
agree.
very great input.
Yeah, this mission it is very like the top floors are very hard. Like I'm sure like you were just mentioning it, Alex, about all the guards, like and there's so much like noisy floor and there's not that much carpet. So you really need like moss arrows to really take full advantage of the the top floors of the place. But
Yeah.
the bottom floor, like the basement and like the first floor are very sparsely populated by guards. That's a good point, Seth. So I didn't even think of that, so you mentioned it. But it would make a lot of sense to have like Children of Karis like in the basement and then have cameras like in the lobby and then behind the ticket counter and places that you would have cameras if it was a real place.
And then they could have named the mission Song of the Karis.
That would have been great.
Yeah, and then imagine like someone new, Lady Valerius. That was a very
Lady
poor take on
Valerius.
Karis. Yeah, right.
That's
hey,
okay.
You're awesome. Steven, is that you?
Did you?
I can't do a good Garrett. I won't try. I can't live up to Stephen Russell.
It'd be a good challenge. I just was thinking about this. This is a really good point that you brought up, Seth, about what it would be like if it was in Thief 2. I think it'd be a really interesting if somebody recreated the map, but added cameras and children of like if basically just remaking the map in Thief 2. I think that would be really
It almost
interesting.
feels like it was designed for them. So many straight corridors to patrol and like places that a camera would be useful.
Another guard up ahead. Time to knock him out while his back is turned.
Good.
Another very poor try.
That
was
wasn't
good.
bad.
Yeah, he's gone.
So
Such
since
a
this
good
is on your list too, Alex, did you have anything else that you wanted to add that you didn't already add?
No, I think that I think we have similar opinions on many of the things. I was actually surprised that the basement was such a thing for you, but was interesting, and I really like Seth's idea. That was an amazing thought or afterthought to that. And
Yep.
puts a totally different view on it, like in the whole theme of Thief 2, this would have been a better there. But I can also see, like, it's exclusive to Thief Gold, and this was a transition mission maybe, and so it's
It could have been a decision made in order to raise some more money for Thief 2, Like, the copies of Thief Gold sold directly impacted how much time Thief 2 had to germinate. So, it's not wasted opportunity. I'm just saying I think that it might have been a better play in Thief 2. A little more
We'll see now.
or maybe for Thief Gold they were running out of extra missions, to make the deal sound good to people.
Yeah, there's so many factors in game dev, right?
Now, where would you put it? I'm thinking about this now. Like, I'm racking my mind, and you were right, Alex. It is a good exercise. I'm thinking, like, where would this mission go? So I'm thinking, like, obviously, not to get too off into the weeds, but there is, Thief 2 Gold. So would you put it where Thief 2 Gold missions were?
I would have put it right after shipping and receiving.
In that mission, you need to get the costume to disguise as a servant.
Hey.
Like something like that.
That's where I would put it too. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but you're insinuating you'd put it between Casing the Joint and Masks.
Yeah, something.
That's what I would do too.
Or before, maybe, if you revisit Casing the Joint and Masks, maybe, that would have been a nice idea. Oh, yeah, just imagine then in Casing the Joint, of course, you see the preparation of the exhibition. And then in Masks, or is it the other way around? No, it was that order, right? And in Masks, you have, and then the title would even make more sense. You have to disguise yourself as a servant on the exhibition party. And
I like the double entendre on the title.
Yeah, that's good.
And before that, and so in between that, you need to get the costume from the props or from the costumes from the opera house to disguise yourself. Something like that,
Oh, baby, hire this guy for the Thief sequel.
Hire this man.
Yeah, but this, so if you put it in an order somewhere in your imagination, that would be my idea of a better way of reusing those two missions and inserting that great mission.
I agree, because I love that mansion so much. We might get into it when we do our favorite Thief 2 missions, but if you had Song of the Caverns or you had something else like in between there, interacting with that in some way, like, this would be an interesting exercise for a fan mission.
It's a different twist, and it would not be like they did it in Strange Bedfellows, where they shifted the map, where they changed everything there. No, this would be a not different twist on how you approach this mansion, yeah, so it would be cool, and it would also justify like that the theme of Undercover comes back in a bit.
Yep, tying it all together. It's development synergy. I like it.
Yeah, so that would be my 2 cents on Song of the Cavern.
Well, since we kind of had
like 5 cents.
Since we kind of since we kind of had parallel thoughts, Alex, do you want to give maybe mission? Because I know you have one that we don't have. I almost guarantee it.
Absolutely, you do. Because my remaining 2 missions are Dark Project missions.
Okay.
I'll say that.
So that was my biggest surprise actually, and it was Thieves Guild.
Huh.
A mission
I love this. I love this pick.
Hold on. I need to prepare.
Oh wait,
that was perfect.
Me too.
Perfect. That was great. You did it on mic perfectly.
So, give me your thoughts, Seth.
Take a shot every time Alex says Thieves Guild.
No, give me your thoughts, and then I convince you.
Hold on, I'm filling up my cup.
I think this is interesting because I think Alex, you probably like it the most, and then From what we've talked about, probably I'm next, and then Seth, you sound like you're probably
You,
the
you know,
least.
in my let's play, when I started the mission, I was like, oh no, this mission is so awful. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, this was pretty good.
Yeah, I have a mixed relationship with Thieves Guild because I seem to have a different experience every time I play through it. Sometimes I love it, and sometimes I'm just like, son of a bitch, Control Alt Shift End.
And I can tell you why. Because
Tell me why.
I know that I replayed this mission not so long ago, and I hated it. And this time I liked it, and it's just because one reason, in my opinion, that's my experience. If you go in the right direction from the beginning, as soon as you are in that the Thieves Guild,
The Overlord's fancy.
their main area, just for the story, you have to get 2 pieces from the 2. No, you have to get the safe key from that one Thieves boss, and the safe is in the area of the other Thieves boss. Ruben and the other guy.
Donald
and Ruben, right. So then and you have to decide, where do I go first? Of course you get some hints somewhere, but still, the possibility that you move in the totally wrong direction, then you're in front of the safe and you're like, damn, I don't have the key, and then you have to go back all the way to Ruben's place and then get the key, and then go all the back. I don't know who had the key, but yeah, then it's a ruined experience. But if you're lucky and you go into the right direction first and get the key first, then it's a totally different thing.
That's very interesting. Can I throw a comment out? So we have a game design rule that is widely understood as show the lock before you show the key. So it's interesting that you say you prefer to find the key first.
Yeah, but I get the idea of this, but it's like back traveling. If they would be in a if there would be an easy way to get to both places, without walking through the whole level again, then this would be correct, because it makes you curious, and of course you have to see your target. I think that's the idea behind it, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. You have to. It's progression. You know where you have to go in order to progress.
Right, and I can totally see that, and I would agree. But the way this mission is created geographically, they made some bad decisions there. So.
Well, can I throw out an idea? I'm thinking about this as you talk, and I totally agree. Like, one of my least favorite parts about this mission is the fact that, like you said, Alex, you get to the safe and you're like, oh, I don't have the key. I got to go all the way back, and then you have to go through the mansion, back through the sewer to the other side of the sewer. I think that if you would have,
and then you have to go back to the safe. That's
then you have to go back, and I think that maybe if you would have had some sort of secret passage, like once you get to one of the mansions, that takes you maybe not to the other mansion, but at least takes you to like the part of the sewers that leads to the other mansion. You know what I mean? Like, because you have to go, because they're on the opposite side of the sewers, from what I remember. So I think if maybe like once you got to like Donald's mansion, or once you got to the other mansion, like if you had like you hit this lever, or you hit this, pull this book off the bookshelf, and a secret passage unlocks, and it takes you like all the way back to like sort of the centralized area of the sewers, because that would cut down a lot on the backtracking, and also would make it easier in case you do it in a different order. That's just my idea that I had when talking about that.
What you're saying is the safe is in the wrong place.
I like this idea like a lot. Like, sorry, yeah, go ahead, explain.
Seth, what do you mean?
Well, if we all agree that backtracking is the problem, that means the safe should have been presented earlier in the mission. It probably should have been near the Overlord's fancy. Like, the safe should have been the focal point of the mission. It should have been bigger. It should have been more obvious. It's the Thieves Guild safe, right? Like, also keep in mind, the Thieves Guild mission is based off the Fritz Leiber books, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. And I recently read the book that the mission is based on loosely. But the Thieves Guild in the inspiration is this huge mysterious place, which I think is what they were trying to capture. But I think the first thing they should have done was put this giant vault in front of the player and say, this is your objective. You need to find the way to open this vault. And then the rest of the mission should have been searching for the key.
And then, and what would, and that's a great idea, and it would make more sense. You know, it doesn't make sense that one of the two has the key to the safe and the other has just the safe. So
Well,
the one with the
This should have been 2 keys.
The
Yes.
story, yeah, the story
Can I
isn't.
go on, please? So,
Oh, sorry.
it's totally, and that's what I had a whole problem with the mission. Like, that's a totally stupid idea. Like, the guy with the key, he could do some work to maybe get into the building of the other guy and just open the safe, you know? But the other guy with the safe would need to steal the key and then go back to his safe, you know? You know, and that, yeah, if they would have 2 keys, that would make sense because they would need work together, you know, and agree on certain things, and you know, because if one of the keys is lost or you know, whatever, then the other one couldn't open it, you know, or maybe they have like a, you know, like a symbol they wear around their neck or whatever.
I was just gonna say we have a comment. Jay Rude on Twitch says only because in this case you have to go all the way back through the level to the other side. Yeah, exactly. That's just. I mean, I think what you're talking about, if you had, because everybody has a spare key, right, to something, right? You usually don't have one key to your house or anything like that. I think maybe if you would have had another key and then, or more, like have options on like have like a couple keys like hidden throughout the level. That way, if you don't go do the mission the order that they wanted you to, you can find maybe one of the other keys, like where the bracelet is. And there's a key to the mansion. But what if you found the safe key in the sewer, in the thief base, in the mansion where the bracelet is? Like, what if it was there, you know? Just having more options.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think, you know, Jay Root just was saying that, to be fair, it's kind of hard to avoid the conversation about the key. Yes, but still, you know, there's a big possibility, as we just discovered, that you can go wrong in the wrong place, and maybe, you know, it's a maze, and so you can get lost, and you're lucky to reach one of the houses finally, you know, and yeah,
But
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say we're dumping on it a lot, but you like it and I like it too. So, what are some things that you really like about it?
Yeah, as I said,
I want to know what attracted you to it.
if you get, that's the thing, I got it right this time, and then the maze is actually challenging, but in a good way. You know, if you use the map correctly, you know, and try to orientate with that, and then it's a really thief-like experience. You know what I think of Thief, and then what I also like is that you are among thieves. That's a great, you know, you are a thief among thieves, but you're still the enemy, and still, you know, you shouldn't be in that place either. And then also, what I really like is that they address you as Garrett, you know, because they know you. You know, they are.
It's Garrett.
Yeah, right. And that's something. That's a great level of detail. I really appreciate. And of course, it starts with that casino. You know, I think that is something that sticks to people's mind. Of course, the music is awful.
Oh,
but
I love the casino. I just think, and like
All
we're saying
right,
earlier,
we're 2 for 3 on the casino music. I also love the drum and bass.
yep,
But
I like it
doesn't
too.
make sense because it's a game about listening to your environment, and you can't do that.
I mean, you
I
can.
think the Thieves Guild just likes drum and bass.
Jay Root is also a fan of the music, blah blah blah. But I'm
So-
the owner of the podcast, so I'm right.
But no, I mean, I like the casino too. I mean, we were talking about earlier about just like going through the Rolodex of like places that are good to like rob and steal from, like bank, you know, the opera house, and you know, casino. Like, there's like how many movies is there about some sort of criminal activity taking place at a casino? So I love the casino. I think it's thematically it's awesome. I think that it's just visually, I think it's cool. I mean, I love that part of it. So, I mean, I know you don't like the music, Alex, but what do you think about it as a sort of aesthetically and then as a place to steal from?
It's a great place, but with that music, it's so annoying because what I find challenging is that there are a lot of, like windows and stuff, where people can look across the room, even with the wall, but there's still, there could always be one of the thugs that can see you somehow. And that's a challenging place, and I like it, but the music annoys me. It's like, I don't know if it was in the American version as well, but in the
It
European version,
was.
in Thief 2, in the police station, I don't remember. It was like a medieval rock band that was pretty famous at that time.
Subway to Sally.
Yeah, Subway to Sally, right? And this was just a promotional deal which totally ruined this mission and was stupid. But yeah, and
So you had different music than we had.
what do you mean?
Was Subway to Sally playing on the Thieves Guild speakers?
No,
in-
it was playing on Thief 2 in the police station, which was
Frame.
also
Oh,
Frame,
very,
yeah.
it was also a very bad decision because it's the same thing. Like with the music ruins your one of your most important skills and abilities in the game.
see, I actually I was very happy to discover Subway to Sally through Thief. I'll admit I have some of their songs on Spotify playlists to this day.
Yeah, it's not my fault that you have a bad taste of music. But, no, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
the
This is-
pain.
we agree to disagree. I
No,
like the
that's
music.
that's next sentence. Next always says that. Yeah, let's agree to disagree. Yeah, I miss him.
No, but I also think too. I mean, you can. This maybe would be one of my honorable mentions. So, but what do you think too about? I just like the not gimmick, but I just like having two mansions because most thief missions are, like Lord Bafford's or another mission that may be on my list. It's just one mansion to rob. So this just gives you two mansions.
Yeah, but they are small. They
They
are
are, yeah.
bigger apartments.
I think that one of them is a little bit bigger than the other, but they are smaller than say Bafford's or Truart's or something like that. But one of them, I think it's Randall. I think Randall's is bigger than Donald's, if I'm right.
Dare I say this is a call
Ruben.
out to assassins?
Ruben, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so confused by all the names.
Me too.
Wasn't it Jake and Seth that they're living there?
But
I can't
What
wait
else?
till I have a mansion in the Thief universe.
You don't want that.
In my opinion,
And
all
then
fan
Garrett
missions are
robs
canon.
you. Then Garrett robs you, and you're like, "Oh yeah, take everything. I'm a biggest fan."
Here's my pin number.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything else that sticks out to you, Alex? Is things you really like?
No, I'm just surprised that it's a sewer mission, and I don't know. I still liked it. It has so many things I normally don't like, but the
I like
combination
that
of things.
sewer mission is its own genre now.
There are sewer missions, so
Absolutely.
and I made a call on the forums once, like, tell me about the best sewers. But yeah, Next and Psychosis didn't want to do it really, so I have to count on you guys. Yeah, since I killed them and now I replaced them.
A better
You
tomorrow.
ate them. They were
Yeah,
eaten.
they are now in the sewers,
Oh shit!
forever.
They're lost. They're finding their way to Donald's mansion.
My top 2 missing podcast fellows.
But
No, I'm done. I can't really tell why I really like this mission. It's like if you love someone, it's not good if you can tell I love you because of this and this and this. No, it's just the whole combination with all its pluses and minuses. So
the
in this
whole is
mission,
more than the sum of its parts.
yeah, and it felt right this time. Maybe next time I'm like, damn, I went to the other place first. Have this mission, but this time it was good. So the mission, it depends on from what side it shows itself.
So I'll throw my opinion out on the mission since I haven't mentioned. I really enjoyed the Overlord's Fancy section because I felt like that section was a little story bite that explained a little bit about how the Thieves Guild works. And it shows that Garrett's not the only game in town, right? Before this mission, we don't have a lot of information about other thieves operating in the city. So I really enjoyed the Thieves Guild as an exploration of of story. It's a great story mission. But my problem with it was that it's the same as most people's gripe, and it's that the sewer section is difficult to navigate. And I think, we've already covered what I think would solve that problem, which is having the safe shown early in the mission somehow, and then having the sewer section be a little more concise or a little more visually distinctive, having each half on the way to each mansion, each half being a little more visually distinctive room by room. But my overall impression of the mission was that it was like great on story and light on fun.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Like, I hated Thieves Guild when I first played it. Like, it was like probably one of my most hated missions. Like, when I first played it, it took me probably 2.5 hours to beat it. Like, one of the longest play times for me. And then I kind of was like you, Alex. Like, when I went back to it, I was like, I was like, I really like this, and almost like you, like for reasons I can't quite explain, because I also hate the sewers. Like, I don't like them. It's confusing. It's annoying. It's bland. But
I think the reason is obvious. I think the reason is that the first time it was played through, it was probably as a novice, and the second time it was
oh
played
yeah,
through, it was probably as someone who understood Thief, right?
yeah, definitely for sure. And also, I knew I had a little bit more, and this is something I think you mentioned, Alex, a little bit briefly. It's like, but you really have to use like your map and your compass in this mission if you really want to do it the right way, especially if you're, not super familiar with the map. Like, a lot of the missions, like, you can kind of get away with not maybe using your compass, but this is one of them where using the compass like really helps. It becomes like a really important tool in your
Yeah.
arsenal. So
My friend, when he first played through Thief, the compass was religious for him. He used the compass to navigate every mission. And I was surprised because when I first played Thief, I almost completely ignored the compass. The map has that convenient blue highlight, right? So I didn't need it. But he'd played a lot of games hence. He was a late comer to Thief. So when he played it, he was like, "Oh, a compass, perfect. I'll be using this all the time." And he checked it religiously every room.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. This map, I think Thieves Guild is, for me anyway, I think it's probably the mission where the compass came in handy the most.
The compass is an underappreciated Thief tool. If anyone who makes fan missions is listening, make a fan mission centered around the compass.
So we kind of gave a couple of our picks. Seth, I'm very, very curious, since you kind of gave it away. You don't have any gold missions on your list. I'm curious what your next pick is.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I have two. Which one should I pick? I'll pick the one that I think we all have on our list. Well, actually, Alex doesn't have it on his list, I think. Lord Beford.
It's not on mine.
I put Bafford's Manor. Bafford's Manor was the first mission I added to my Holy Trinity.
That's interesting. Yep, that's not on my list, so I'm curious to. I like it, but I'm curious to see what you think.
Alex, did you have it?
It's my honorable mention.
Ah, and Jake, is it your honorable mention, or did it not even make it?
No, it's not. I like the mission, but it wasn't in my top 3 or on my honorables.
All right. Well, first, let me say, it is also used twice if you count the Easter egg mission as a mission.
Oh, that's
But-
true.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but that's something different.
That's a segue. That's a segue that I won't take. But I put it on my list because I think my argument is that the Lord Bafford mission is a really great introduction to Thief, and I think that it's underappreciated. I know that Bafford has appeared in a lot of FM since, and I think that's a testament to the influence. But I think that Bafford serves as a really, really great introduction to the world of Thief, right? So, like, it drops you into the mission. You have this great vista of a city street. It's immediately apparent that, the gate to your left is important. It belongs to somebody wealthy. It's well lit. and the street to your right is the way you have to go because it's dark and it's gloomy and you're a thief. And you walk up to the gate and you hear this really long-winded for a first mission conversation that serves no purpose other than to tell you a little bit about the world that you're in and to tell you like, hey, there are these really important tidbits of information that you can get by doing nothing and just hanging around. And like, you know that if you, as a lot of people probably did, run at the gate, you're going to have a hard time. But if you just go past it and you walk up the street, you can probably find a back way in. And I think that's just a fantastic introduction to Thief as a game. It tells you everything you need to know organically. And I don't think that that's talked about enough. I think that gets overlooked a lot of the time when people are talking about Thief.
I totally agree. It was very close on my list, not just for nostalgia because of the demo, but I totally see it like you just described. Like, it's a real great introduction because it sets the basics of the gameplay and the game in general, and not just the gameplay, but also it sets a bit of the tone. Like, how is Garrett's view on the upper classes? You know, like with the throne room. You know, it introduces them to like that they are, they live in a very exquisite life, and
It's a throne room.
yeah, how pretentious can you get? And the whole thing is a great answer, like with the servants and how he addresses the cook. You know, tell cook to that's there's so
I know
much.
he's reusing those greens.
Yeah, and then you get some some funny conversations already, and it has all the basics. It's not, but it's not. Yeah, it is kind of overwhelming. It's kind of a maze.
It's an
It's pretty
information
big.
drop.
It's pretty
For the
big, yeah.
first time, it's really overwhelming, and it has some hard passages with marble floors and a lot of guards that can see you if you don't know what you're doing. And that was the case for me, back in the days. And I think I spent, I don't know, it took me maybe 10 hours to finish that mission.
Especially since you
Wow.
don't have moss arrows. You don't have moss arrows to use. And that area that's around the throne room, like that hallway, is
It's
like
all
you said,
marble.
it's all marble. So there's no, it's very hard to like jump between the carpet and not
Let
have
me
anybody
say,
hear
though,
you. So definitely dumps you in.
And then you have those strange, those stairways up and down and left and right, and it's pretty confusing, and the manner doesn't really make sense.
it's a figure eight, though. Oh, but you know
Yeah.
what? I think it makes so much sense. I think that as an introduction to Thief levels, Beford's Manor, it affords the player a lot of opportunities to do trials by fire, right? Like, there are large sections where there are no guards at all. The underhalls, where you overhear the servants talking, there's no guards at all. That's a nice break from the tension of walking the streets and like wondering if you're going to be caught, wandering through the sewers, worrying about the guards at the front gate. And then you get into the manor, and suddenly you have, a relatively small number of guards walking relatively large routes. And so you have to really observe their patterns if you're trying to avoid being seen at all, or get smart and figure out how to blackjack them. And I think, as far as late 90s games go, Thief does a good job of giving you all the tools you need to succeed and then dropping you right into the frying pan and forcing you to use them.
That's great observation, right? And what did I want to say? And one thing, like I think Pura described it, and I think one of you guys in our last episode also said, like, when you face the guard and he said, "How's it going?" And you're like,
How's it
"Okay,
going?"
I'm not an enemy from the start, So in this civil area, I'm just a civilian. I'm just a threat when I'm in a forbidden area, And this is also something very interesting.
And the drunk guard too. You're talking about how both of you, I think, mentioned how it kind of introduces you to Thief in a really organic way. But the fact that you have that drunk guard and that kind of introduces you to the humor of the game, and also just the sort of different situations in the game.
And
that
the first
present themselves.
conversation between
Yeah.
Angry Guard and Benny, like with the
Not letting them
inside and
inside.
outside, and
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly. So I kind of feel the same way you do, Alex. Like, I like Lord Baffords a lot, and it grew on me, I think, when I replayed the game again. But the first time I played it, I was so confused because the mansion, like you said, is very confusing with this hallway goes this way, this one goes the other way. It doesn't really feel like, I think, Seth described it as a figure eight, and that would make sense because like it doesn't feel like a square. It feels like, it's crisscrossing in all these different directions. But I do like how it kind of throws you, like Seth said, into the frying pan. It's the first mission of the game that isn't the training mission, but it's not treating you with kid gloves. It's like, all right, these are the mechanics, learn them, experience them, through repetition and through actually experiencing them. It's not going to hold your hand, so I did appreciate that aspect a lot.
And what I just figure about while watching the gameplay here again, it's one of the more beautiful areas in Thief because the whole theme of the mix of colors seems, it's not, there are no textures that totally stick out like and are ugly. They have those brownish yellow walls. I always feel they're yellow, and then you have that gray bluish other stuff, and
Brown
it's
is real.
and from the artificial point of view, it looks more beautiful than many places later in Thief, in my opinion. And this also sets a tone. Baffert's Manor is just like that one place that sticks to your mind. You know how it looks, and I think it's because of that mix of colors.
It has a unique aesthetic. I agree 100%.
Something I mentioned before, though, is that in game design, there's a tendency to spend a lot of time and iteration on early levels. So Beford's Manor probably represents like 5 or more iterations on the same theme.
Yeah,
they probably spent the most money developing Baffert's Manor.
Yeah, this was like the demo mission, of course, and I think they had this in mind pretty early, I could imagine, because it's very basic. And then, of course, like in Thief 2, of course, they took like Life of the Party, because this was the show-off mission, and...
yeah, so I guess they would have had feedback early on because these were the demo missions. That never occurred to me, but that's an absolutely... That's an important point, right? These came out first. People experienced these first.
Yeah, totally. But of course, Life of the Party is still today, like, if you name top 3 Thief 2 missions, I think Life of the Party would be one of them.
Might be on mine. Yes,
let me pull mine over here. I think it might be on mine too, but I won't say.
But I think it would be an honorable mention because it's so obvious, and Lord Baffert, in my opinion, was actually too very obvious because that's why I didn't take it, because I was like, I'm pretty sure one of you guys will name it.
Yeah, but I think obvious is okay, right? If something is done right, if something set a lot of precedence, it's important to recognize that.
I was just thinking of the episode and the listeners, like, if I would also say Lord Baffert, then it would be on my list, but then another one would be gone, so it's one mission less to talk about, but now we have one more.
I think my favorite part of this mission too is, I mean, you can speak to this, Seth, you like it so much, and I know, Alex like it too, is like the secret passage to the throne room. Like when I first played the mission, that like blew my mind. Like I was like, oh my god, like I didn't
find that first playthrough. First playthrough, I think most people would say the same thing. First playthrough, people bumble through the marble halls and past the 2 or 3 guards that are wandering it and find the throne room that way. But like on subsequent playthroughs, you get smart and you start chopping down banners and you realize there's something you didn't even bother to use the first time.
And you're so proud in that moment.
Exactly.
And it's a thing, like, and you can speak to this, Seth, a lot because you're a designer, but it's one of those moments where it's the designer making the player feel smart for something that was 100% planned. You know what I mean? Like, it's a secret that, you might not find, but the designer intends to. But yeah, the designer intends you to find. But when you destroy that banner, you're like, I'm so smart. Like, this is awesome. Like, I'm a real thief. But it's exactly planned.
It's been here the whole time.
I have the feeling, but I was wondering in my playthrough, you don't have rope arrows in that mission. But
nope.
If I remember it correctly, I found the secret passage the other way around. I got into...
Oh, you must have played it on New Dark then. I don't think you can climb up there without New Dark.
But back in the days, even then, I think I found it in my early Thief days, and it's over 20 years, so maybe my imagination is just mixing up things. Maybe I forgot about it, and then in another playthrough I found it.
Memory than most people.
What change does New Dark make? I wasn't aware of this.
Mantling.
Oh, okay.
mantling is a little easier, and Garrett can also mantle into
way
places.
better.
Yeah, he can mantle into places that he can't stand as well. It'll put you into crouch automatically.
That's what you see when you play the original games nowadays with a new mantle. Then you can get to places or reach places earlier than they were intended to be.
Yeah, you can sequence break like crazy.
Yeah. But new mantle is awesome. So I would never, because there were so many frustrating moments back in the days. I really I was so swearing so much on that climbing technology sometimes, because this time I could make this jump, but this time not. Why don't you grab this time, Garrett? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, nothing I hate more than arbitrary restrictions.
But new mantle is also. But what I can now tell you after playing Thief 1, I really miss the jumping mechanic of Thief 1 and Thief 2. Because in Thief 2 it's more realistic, in Thief 1 you're just like bunny hopping all over the places.
Oh my god, I love.
But it's
being
amazing
past
from
Garrett.
from the flow you get. It for me it's like kind of similar in Thief 2014. This was one of the great things they added. This technology. What is it called? Like the swooshing around.
It's like the blink from Dishonored.
Yeah, but better.
Yeah.
And this was, and the jumping mechanic was my equivalent, at least on silent floors, then you could like jump around and fly around a bit.
Has that
I had
appeal of
a-
like Sonic or something, where you're like you have fun building up momentum and speed.
Gotta go fast.
Exactly.
I
Right.
had a discussion with a friend where we talked about mantling in Thief, and he mentioned like, mantling feels dated, and I said, what the hell? I love
Eh?
mantling in Thief. It feels like you're a person. You're heavy. Garrett has weight. He's carrying 50 pounds of arrows on his back. Like
And
the guy should not climb easily.
and a donkey full of gold.
I'm carrying 50 gold candlesticks. What do you expect?
What someone on the forums, because this is always a topic, like how Garrett moves with all those metal things he steals.
It'd be funny if somebody like did a fan mission or some sort of mod or something like that, where like the more loot you had, like you could just hear like jangling like keys in his pockets, like just all this metal
Man,
from.
that would be an amazing mechanic.
Yeah.
The more loot you carry, the more easy it is for guards to detect you.
Oh man, I think then I wouldn't have loved the game as much. But it's an interesting idea actually. But what I wanted to say is that I read years ago on the forums someone mentioned like, shouldn't he have like a magic bag? Like
Bag of
there's
holding.
there's like a black hole in that bag, where all the stuff disappears, so the bag just stays the same. And it would kind of make sense in the Thief universe somehow.
So, can I throw my armchair historian interpretation out there?
Of course.
My armchair historian interpretation is that Garrett wears a cloak and he just cuts strips off his cloak and wraps his loot as he puts it in his bag. If you wrap, it was common practice to wrap your weapons in cloth in order to prevent them from jingle jangling when you were trying to do something sneaky. So I think Garrett just does the same.
Interesting.
He's a master thief. He knows what's up.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows who he is, so he's the expert.
But still, you look at the way he's built. His body he's a skinny guy, and the weight he has to carry is, so huge. Like a traveling backpack, or even more. Like as I said, a donkey full of loot. Like imagine Garrett like always having a carriage with him, like the whole time.
I think this is a new topic for one of our things. How does Garrett carry his loot?
Yeah, or things that there should be an episode like things that don't make sense or that trigger us, and I think we are already planning something like that. So
suspension of disbelief, breaking.
Yeah, and but Lord Bafford. Anything you guys want to add to this?
I love the throne room too. Besides the secret passage, like the throne room's cool. I like that area around the throne room, all those like loot rooms, because all the loot is like kind of concentrated in like one part of the mansion. Most of it, I mean, around the throne room, which makes sense.
Something I really enjoyed about Beford's Manor is that it feels like a real medieval manor. There are a lot of things in Beford's Manor that like you would actually need to run a household. There's like I know most thief missions have a kitchen, but Beford's Manor is arguably the first mission to have a kitchen. You know, there's a bath. There's a bath, and I think that's great. I think it's great that there's a bath that shows that like Beford, he's got a pool and a bath all within the same area. Like he's got a clear division between like where he goes for leisure and where he goes to actually get clean. And I think that's great for storytelling. Like Beford's privilege is on display.
And he has a library, which makes sense, and a dining room, and yeah,
I wonder if he even reads them, or if they're just for show.
me too. And then his place where he counts his money, is way down.
Yeah, where he talks about Dreckbound. Like we even have that allusion to Beford running a gambling ring. And Victoria is mentioned.
Yeah, and Ramirez, and that Ginny guy reappears in another mission in a readable, and yeah, this is also something. At this point you don't know that, but if you already for your first play read them, very carefully, then those names later appear. Like, oh wait,
They
were.
stick.
And that's what we said in our last episode, why we love Thief, that the world feels alive and connected. So, and this it already starts here.
I think, like, on a first playthrough, if you find those names and they don't stick, that's just fairly good design. But if you play through the entire game and then you play through again, you'll almost definitely see all those illusions on your second playthrough, and then it's genius. You're like, holy cow, they mentioned all of this in the first mission, right after the training mission. They're all
Right.
there.
And that Baffert is then mentioned in Masks. He was on hunting with Baffert, and he tried to trick him by selling him a fake picture. That's
Oh,
then
poor
it comes
Lord
back.
Before.
So you're like, oh, Lord Baffert, he was the guy from the first mission. I robbed him, and now he's like, you're talking like that, and yeah, that's amazing.
So, closing question before we move on to our next mission. Is it Bafford or is it Beford? Where's the emphasis?
I wanted to mention at the end, like, it's interesting how you pronounce the name, because in the game they say Baffert.
I use both. I change the pronunciation based on like what other words I'm using.
But
So
you're
I would
Canadian,
say,
right?
yeah, I would say
The French
poor Lord
before.
Beford, but I would also say Lord Bafford's Manor.
Lord Befort, of course, rhymes. That's cool.
Exactly.
But when you're like talking like psychosis, then it's like Lord Befort. Lord Befort.
Where's
like,
he from?
New York City.
Ah, he's walking in.
No, but I think there's your French influence maybe in Canada.
Maybe.
That's why you
I'm
like
pretty not French, though.
That's why you like Jaladine, maybe.
Ah.
Maybe. But yeah, it's interesting how you pronounce it. So in this mission, it's the first mission where you play as Jarret, the Master
Jared.
Thief. Jarret.
Jared, Master Thief.
Yeah, but on French it would be Jarret, if you pronounce it in a French way.
I like it.
Oui. And what Skaki told us once is that in France, of course, in Europe, the first two games weren't named Thief, they were named The Dark Project. And in France, it was the undertitle was a Thieves Guild, which doesn't make sense at all.
No, but you know what? That makes complete sense if you read the source material. Like if you've read Fafford and the Grey Mouser, the first book, the Thieves Guild plays a major role in several of the plots. And interestingly, Fafford and the Grey Mouser is organized in short stories that read like missions, and Thief is organized along the same lines. So for anyone who hasn't read the Fritz Lieber books but loves Thief, I really recommend you give those a shot because you'll be amazed at the level of crossover.
Okay, interesting. What is it?
I'll have to check them out.
I think they were written in the 40s. I could be wrong. They're quite old, but
What was the name?
so Fritz Lieber is the author.
Sounds German.
I'm not sure. And the original so the books are all compilations of short stories. And I've read through the first one, and I have the second one beside me. It's next on my reading list. But I will figure out what the name of the first collection of short stories is and mention it before the end of the podcast.
Oh, he was a pulp author. That's cool. So yeah, this is very like 40s kind of stuff.
Another service brought to you by Inside at Last.
There's
Book
8 novels.
recommendations.
There's 8 novels in this series that Baffert and the Grey Mouser.
Yeah, you have to tell me later again. Maybe then I have to find the German title and do after we record. But they're very interesting. Never.
While we're
know
on
about
this topic, the first collection of short stories is called Swords Against Deviltry. You can
Mhm.
probably get it on Amazon, Thrift Books, or Abe Books for about $6.
Yeah, maybe. I don't buy on Amazon, but yeah,
Good for you.
I know. So I think Jake, you're next with your next. mission.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with I put Assassins on my list.
Ooh,
Son of a bitch!
interesting.
Oh, is this do we have some cross pollination going on here?
No, but I like Assassination or Assassins.
So yeah, so in a way, it's kind of like Song of the Caverns in that I don't really like escort missions or follow missions or whatever you want to call them. And obviously, the mission, well, it begins with the shopkeeper getting killed, but then you have to, follow the assassins back to Ramirez's mansion. And typically, I don't like that, but I think they handled it really well in terms of tailing the assassins. And I love Ramirez's mansion. I love the whole. I love the whole story of the mission. First off, like I like the idea of you're at this place. Someone tries to kill you, and it's sort of your plans are kind of thrown astray. And I think it's so just cool and dare I say badass. Of Garrett to be like, all right, I'm gonna follow these guys back to their boss, and then I'm gonna teach the boss a lesson by not killing him, not hurting him, but by just lifting his pouch off his belt and then being hopefully not seen. Obviously you can do the mission and be seen, but
That shot was meant for me.
yes, exactly. So the whole story aspect of it is cool. I like the mansion. I think Ramirez's mansion is a lot better than Baffert's mansion, dare I say. Maybe that's a hot
Sorry.
take.
I'm
What?
watching the stream right now. Why are Farkas's elbows also his face?
Yeah, someone told me that there must be a problem with the T-Fix, that somehow the high poly models
I think
are
there's a
not
big
used,
fucking
but
problem.
yeah, and I have that
Mm.
on the thieves in Thieves Guild. It was the same, and it was really hard to tell in which direction they're looking because
That's-
the faces are on the back of their heads.
Oh my god, that's cosmic horror.
Yeah, I like horror so much in Thief, so I tried to add more to it. No, but someone told me like it's a problem with like there are the textures for the high poly models, but I'm using the low poly models, and yeah.
That's HP Lovecraft shit. I would I would delete your mesh folder. Anyway, sorry, back to the
Yeah,
topic.
but let's go on with
Assassins.
Jake's Assassins.
So yeah, so I just like this mansion better than Bafford's. I like Bafford's, but I like it better because I found it much easier to navigate. There was even more secrets, like with the fireplace, and there's also another place you can climb up. And I think there's there's the fireplace, and there's like the bookshelf, and there's I think there's more secrets, and I found the mansion's layout was a lot easier, and I found that the size was just about perfect. It's big, and there's multiple ways to get inside. You can go through the library, you can go through the front door, you can go through the bedroom. And I found it easier to navigate. So I found that it was a lot better of a size and a lot more of a tight map design than Bafford's. Not that this is all about Bafford's, but I think that with those mansion missions, it's a balance of you want to have it big enough that there's lots of things to find and explore, but also small enough that you can like find your way around. So, and I like the basement. I like that Ramirez has like a panic room I like that there's like a servant that's bringing him food. Yeah, it's just a one of those missions I just think of. I just think of as classic Thief, like just multiple ways to get inside, multiple ways to achieve your objective. Um, just great stealth gameplay, basically.
So once again, I have to rewind because the beginning is something you don't expect. Like in Song of the Caverns, but totally different, of course. But it's something, like, okay, I'm in this shop from that guy, and it's really cool, like, to be in there, because before the shops was just an abstract menu, and now you're really in this place, and then
it
he
puts
gets
you right
shot.
into the environment.
Right, and now he gets shot. Like, bam, like right at the beginning, and then the stupid guys. Oh yeah, it was Garrett. Like, okay, yeah, they they don't look like the same, but
They're
of
not
course,
smart.
yeah. But and what I and I think that is what we already said, like in the background one day. The difference between Tracing the Career and this one is that you get at the end you get a reward with a cool mention,
Yes,
and
100%.
that's why this mission is way cooler, and and it's not so tedious. You don't have to wait for someone to pick something up for
Yes.
2 minutes
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
But
Yes.
this mission, like, is really interesting to follow these guys, because you get really curious, like, where are they going, and they could have told it in a story, like in a cutscene, like, oh yeah, and they were shooting him, and then I had to follow, and now I'm in front of Ramirez's building, and this is where the mission starts. But no, they did it in the game, in the gameplay. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's very true. And another thing too, to compare it to the courier mission from Thief 2, is also you're much more focused just on these guys. Like, there is civilians and there is other guards, but in courier, like, you have to really worry about like who else is around. So it's like you're following this letter and you're following the courier, but you're also worrying about like guards that are patrolling that are going to go after you on site. I think Assassins works better because you can focus a lot more on just following these assassins, just worrying about what they're doing. You're not so much worried about what else is going on.
And one thing that also is really great, you see a lot of places that you would want to visit, but I think at your first playthrough, you find out after a while, like, okay, I can't let them get away from me, then the mission is done. But you see those places, and once you arrived at Ramirez's place, you can visit the city again and discover those places. And there are
You can
things.
go back.
And
There's
that's
locked doors.
and that's not frustrating, like in Thief 2. It was really frustrating, There are places you want to visit, but you can't, because you're always under that pressure to follow a person. And here, they gave you the opportunity, like, okay, if you're new to this, just focus on the mansion. But if you are a more experienced player, of course you want to explore the city again,
If you're a real Taffer.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing too is I don't know exactly the distance or the time, but it feels much shorter. Like, I know obviously you have to wait in courier, so it's a lot longer, but the distance I feel like that you have to follow these guys is like pretty much like perfect, because right, like if you just follow them like down the block, like just one street over, it's like, all right, we killed them, or now we're here. Like, if Ramirez's manor was like on the other side of the shop, you'd be like, okay, like that's kind of suspension of disbelief breaking. But if you had to follow them for too long, you'd be like, all right, this is getting tedious. But I feel like the follow time is just about perfect for where it should be. So
I think at this point we have 2 official games and 3, if you count T2X as an unofficial expansion, games where there are trailing missions. And I still think Thief 1 does the trailing mission best.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think
in Thief 2X, what was that again?
shadowing the
was
enemy.
the guy in the village after the train, right?
They kick your cousin's ass and steal your ship.
No, I know the game. I just mean the mission was after you travel by train, right? And then you have to follow this guy to the secret thief's hideout, right?
I think it's just before the train mission.
I think it's after, because you're in that snowy village.
Yeah, I'll defer to you because you probably played it more than I have. But I remember in Thief 1, Thief 1 is the only trailing mission where you have a mission after a mission in the same mission. So what starts ostensibly as something that is not a trailing mission, organically, because your shopkeep is assassinated, becomes trailing mission, and then it becomes a looting mission. And I think the payoff to the trailing mission is really important in that, like, you get the entirety of Ramirez Manor to explore, along with access to Ramirez himself, that being super important, right after the trailing mission. Whereas in Trace the Courier, the mission just ends as a segue into a much better mission, in my opinion. And in T2X, it also just ends. So, like, I think the secret to the formula is giving the player a big payoff at the end of the trail, right? And not just ending the mission, but like giving them a big tidbit of breadcrumb trail to explore, or like opening the map up.
But I think Thief 1 does it best because it's integrated into one mission. I think Thief 2 found a good compromise, because after that you start right after, you follow them, you go to the next place where you are. And this is in a separate mission because it's pretty big. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, it's very fluid and it's a real great reward, like that mentioned. But what I found interesting, Jake, what you said, you think this mention is better, or you like it more than Baffert's Manor?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
stood out to me too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I found it the first time I played Baffords, I found it confusing. I found, like, when I got to this is kind of where the game started to click with me, right? Like, when I first played it, like, it was like getting to this mission and then another mission that is on my list and maybe on somebody else. I don't know. Like, it's hard to explain. I felt like it just was easier to navigate, and I don't know. I think there's more secrets. I feel like there's more secrets. I like just I like that you can confront Ramirez, or don't confront him, but you can confront him by not confronting him. So I like that aspect too. Like that he's in the mission.
You get a payoff. He wanted to kill you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Now
You can beat Ramirez up if you want to.
Yeah. And
I think I blackjacked him
what
to
I
death
what I
the first time
what
I
I like
played.
is that he can fight back, if he discovers you.
I think he's also the first enemy to use a spiked mace in Thief 1.
Yeah.
He's got a unique weapon.
Yeah. And so the whole thing, like, the concept is really great. And I still think that Baffert's Manor in some way is cooler, but I can see what you're saying, like with that secret passage behind the walls. And yes, there's more secrets, and the thief, but Baffert's Manor, it's introducing the thief formula, and I think this is the next Lord's Mansion that expands on it.
It's the logical conclusion.
Right.
I think that the thing with I think the dividing line between Bafford and Ramirez is that Bafford's Manor has a much better soundscape than Ramirez Manor, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're exploring the dungeons of Bafford's Manor, you have that great super bassy organ playing as you creep about, and that's a great theme for you as a thief, right? Whereas in Ramirez Manor, I don't really recall what the ambience is like, and I don't know. That says to me that it's weaker.
Yeah, I see your point.
Bafford's Manor gives you a lot of theme, like a lot of almost theme music as you're exploring.
To think about this, but I would agree. But Jake, or Seth, because I don't have so much to say about this mission except the manual of the lockpicks, which we weren't sure if this was there in the original, or maybe it's a T-Fix thing.
The
manual of how the lockpicks work.
Oh, I honestly can't remember. I don't think that's original though. I think that in the original game, it just introduces the lockpicks in the FMV, and so you're aware that you have them now because Garrett is proud of them.
Yeah, finest lockpicks.
Yeah, so I think as an introduction to that tool, it's good in that it highlights them, but poor in that it doesn't offer you any introductions to how they work. And I distinctly remember trying to use the lockpicks like keys the first time I played, in that like I would right click once and they wouldn't work, and I was
Yeah.
just like, well, the lockpicks don't work on this door.
There
And
seemed to be a necessity to put that in there. Yeah.
absolutely, it's a missed opportunity, a misstep.
But
I think
the manual. I'm sorry. Go on. I can.
I think it was a mistake not to include them in the training mission, because I think if they had mentioned
Yep.
in the training mission that you could lockpick doors, even if you forgot about it for 5 or 6 missions, you would remember as soon as they mentioned Garrett's daddy's got a new set of lockpicks, you know? So like
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because the lockpicks are the most not obvious tools you have. You know how a sword works. You can imagine how a blackjack works. That's not even used in the training, I
well,
guess. You know how a bow works, but the lockpicks. First of all, they seem to be still true to the keepers. Like yeah, sometimes they maybe have to get inside places they shouldn't be, but yeah, this would have been the tool to explain, because it's not intuitive like to hold it on an object. And yeah, now they had to come up with that solution, like yeah, let's do a readable on this. And this was, it's not within the game world, like stand in front of a lock and hold a lockpick to the lock, like and just keep in mind
Yep.
that you have to be closer than if you would just open the door.
Something
Yeah.
real quick. Something real quick. Sorry, I wanted to say because I got kind of disconnected. Internet connect problems, but you were saying why
Yeah, we hear that. I
do I
can hear it.
like this mission in with Barry?
You're lagging for me.
I mean,
Jake, come back. We lost you, man.
Kind of.
Vaguely. You sound like a broken wax cylinder.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can hear you.
So-
Hello?
No, it's not so good. So I think we have to skip this part from Jake, or maybe we can come back to it later as a afterthought. But yes, Seth, anything you want to add?
Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to add. Ramirez has a pet Burrick.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the first mention of Burricks being kept as pets in the Thief, like in the Thief canon, and that's definitely something that carried on to fan missions, right? Like it's a clear-cut case of something being in an original mission and then being continued through like the tradition of fan missions, and I really enjoyed that.
Um, yeah, and for example, today I streamed Calendra's, no, not Calendra's, the Seven Sisters. And there's in mission 3, I think it is, there's also that Burrick that you have to guide back to its owner.
I haven't played Seven Sisters.
Ooh.
Should I?
Well, it's Lady Rowena, and she was
Classic.
a talent, and yeah, it's still, sometimes you think like, oh yeah, like Calendra's legacy, in my opinion, is maybe a bit of, sentimental, but Rowena's missions, you can still play them, and I think that those are the missions I replay most.
So don't hurt me, but I also haven't played Calendar's Legacy.
Yeah,
But-
it's okay, in my
But
opinion, but not from a historical point of view, of course.
I think, to my credit, one of the first fan missions that I recommended to a friend who played through Thief for the first time recently was Calendar's Cistern, which I have also replayed recently. And I think it stands out as one of the like super early examples, not super early, but like a prominent example of a fan mission that deals with a linear storyline in a non-linear environment.
Yeah, it especially for its time when it came out, this this was something groundbreaking, I think. It's very interesting to replay. I would say, because there was a lot of things, especially like from the story and stuff, that was new. And then what was her name? The red-haired lady.
Mercedes?
Yeah, Mercedes was added.
Mercedes is the companion.
Yeah, and so there are things that were new, I think, at that point, especially so early in the fan mission history.
Yeah, for sure. Is the redheaded lady the antagonist of the mission?
No,
I can't remember her name.
she's Mercedes. You just said.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember her as redheaded, but that doesn't matter.
But maybe it's my Tris Marigold love. So every woman that is some way attracted to the main character is red hair. I don't know. But Jake, you are back.
We hope. We pray to the builder.
Did you
The
unmute?
trickster?
You're still muted, Jake. If you maybe want to say something.
Last resort. We pray to Karis.
We try to play it over so we don't skip to the next mission.
Well, all clearly false prophets.
Is there anything else we could say about assassins? I don't know. I think at this point it would be a bit strange to the listeners.
I think so as well. Tech difficulties, right?
Yeah, so let's skip to the next mission. I think it's my turn now, right?
Yes. Shoot.
Wait. I have to go my list. No, of course, it's Return to the Cathedral.
Oh my god. Really?
Yeah, and that was a surprise for me as well. Because the theme is totally not my thing with the zombies and Hans and everything. But I don't know. I really like first of all, you think like, oh no, to this cathedral thing, I don't like the Hans and everything. But since
they're scary.
As I said, like in that mission, I really experienced this. Like they are not a threat to me anymore. I'm not scared anymore. Of course, I'm not like in my youth. So I could deal with them, of course, and I knew how to handle them. And I like, it's totally different. Like with suddenly this ghost appears, and first he seems like a tour guide. He wants to show you around.
Mirus.
And I was not sure if he is just, if it's just a ghost that's doing what he always did, like introducing the new novices to the cathedral. It wasn't clear that he really talks to me as Garrett, that he recognizes me as a being there. And yeah, but then he gives me different tasks. And yes, of course, it's a bit like, oh, we forgot to do this. And, but still, it's something I like that, because they use the whole area, you have to get to every place. And they are interesting. You're different, and I really like this mission. He gives me task after task. What I don't like, because one thing I could imagine, like, let's imagine you have to pause the game, like, because you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, and then you come back, but then the objective doesn't tell you in detail what to do. It just says, do the tasks the ghost gives you, and you could forget maybe what he told you. So that's a minus, but if you play it in one go, then yeah, it's just fun. This mission is just fun, and quite a challenge, but not.
I have to start by saying that Return to the Cathedral almost made it to my top 3 as well.
Good choice.
So I don't know, where do I want to start with this? I guess you mentioned Mirus, so I'll go back to Mirus. I liked Mirus also as an oddity. Like a lot of my favorite missions, and the runners-up stood out to me as like very individual. And Muris, as sort of like a tour guide character in a horror mission, stands out as like a prime example of why Thief is kitschy, but why Thief works. So like you have this ghost who's like, "Hello, novice. I'm dead, and I need you to run a few basic errands for me to ensure I make it to the afterlife." Like, that's so kitschy, but also extremely in line with a lot of the other things Thief has introduced to this point, right? Like, we have a MacGuffin, we have the eye. Like, we live in a world where, like, electricity and swords live side by side. So, like, I can't complain really there. But Miras is just so strange, but oddly palatable.
What do you call him?
He's a ghost. He's a like. What do you mean? What do you call him?
No, you said it sounds like Ramirez.
Like Ramirez?
You said Ramirez is so.
Miras, brother Miras. His name is Miras.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, did you miss? It sounded for me like Ramirez, so that's why I was wondering.
Sorry.
That's
Maybe
why
that's
I'm
my
asking.
poor Mike.
No. It's cool. Maybe it's just my poor understanding. But one thing I didn't like is, and I think you saw it on my Let's Play that at the end you are bringing this holy symbol to the graveyard, and then he says, "Oh, it's not holy because there needs it needs to get some procedure to get holy." And it was like,
bless it.
yeah, you have to bless it, right? And he tells you how, but there's, you can't do the ritual since you're not a priest. But brother, whatever, found a way or has a way to do it anyways. And I was like, I have some holy water with me. Why not, throw it on there? Yes, so I put the holy symbol on the ground, and then I chose my holy water and shoot a rope arrow at that thing, and it didn't work. And this was something like things like that worked in fan missions later. I know that, and this would have been like a smart way. Like, hey, player, you found this idea. It's sad that they didn't implement this. So you have to bring it to that water pool in the observatory, which is still cool, to see that place if you haven't been there like me. But I think this would have been great if they would have added this little thing to, because the player feels like, hey, I was smart enough.
It would have been a great opportunity to let the player feel smart, right? And I think that's one of those divisions between Thief 1 and Thief 2 where like Thief 1 was experimental, and in a case like this, they could have potentially made holy water like a multifunction item, but that would require giving it some kind of, I don't know how that would work because I've never written a script for Thief, but it seems to me there would be an issue in making it simultaneously something that can bless water arrows, something that can be used like a key can be used, like to frob other items. And I think using holy water to bless something was just outside the scope for the original game. And
could imagine, yeah.
Yeah, so I figure like I'm sure that the devs thought of that. I'm sure that it occurred to them that like, hey, we have an item in game we could use for this, and it just never made it into the final cut.
And what's also great about this mission, I like the idea with that where you have to forge you have to forge the holy symbol, right? And there are different what do you call it? The forms where you put in
icons.
There are different icons, so that's a great interactive moment, where you can craft your own things. And the wine cellar, I didn't find it in my playthrough, but you can craft the key for the wine cellar, which is actually a great thing. And because you discover this technique in the second mission, and now it gets reused for interactivity and really is important for reaching your goals,
Can I say that I just love that the Hammerites have a wine cellar? Why do they have a wine cellar? Like, we're talking about ostensibly the most religiously fundamental group in a Thief universe having a wine cellar.
Yeah, but think of the Christs, like Wine is
Yes.
very important to that, and the Hemorrhoids are in some way like they are the
An allegory. They're an allegory.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. Oh, Jake, you're back.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was waiting for some time to jump in. Yeah, sorry everybody, technical issues. My internet decided it was pretty much perfect there through most of the stream, and then really took a nosedive. But I love this mission. This is also on my honorable mentions, so I
Yeah.
love it.
We thought that your Ramirez thought we had to skip. That
Oh,
you
so
maybe could put it in as an afterthought later. So
yeah, no worries.
so those things like the ghost, and then the different tasks he gives you and how you have to do them, and then this interactive thing. I think there's so much interesting stuff in that mission, and the mission also, it's a cathedral thing, but all those places are very different. They differ in they have a purpose. It seems believable to me, and I really like this mission.
Yeah, me too. Me
One
too.
of my top 3.
Yeah, it just missed my list. I thought about this was probably the one that was closest to making my list. It was I was debating on it. I correct me if I'm treading previous ground, but what you just mentioned is something I like too. I like all the different tasks that you can do. Something I really like about this mission, and I noticed this being a recurring theme in my sort of thoughts on missions when I think about them, is the map size. Like it's a big map, but it's also that perfect size where you're not really going to get lost, and also like the map is segmented in a way where it's like a big square, and then it's like these little squares, like these buildings that are
Yeah,
like
and
within the big square.
they just have like 2 levels, I think, in general,
Yeah,
and
most of them. Yeah,
so
most of them are just 2 levels.
so
So
the big map is like dissected into different maps, and yeah, so you don't get
exactly.
lost.
Yeah,
Very
so it's
very
easier
well
to
made.
navigate. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's easier to navigate, and I liked going underneath. And it's not the sewers, but there's that sort of underground area that connects all the buildings, and that was really cool. And like, there's that haunt that's patrolling. I always remember that room where there's that haunt patrolling that one sort of I don't know what you call it. It's like a hallway, I guess, and there's like loot in there, and yeah, it's the map design is so strong, and like you, I love the mixture of objectives, and the
and
story is so
and
surprising.
like on the higher difficulty levels, that you have to grab the two bodies and put them to their
Put them
graves.
in their graves. Yeah.
Yep.
It feels
Yeah.
that the whole thing, even, yeah, of course there's a ghost, but the whole thing has a history. Something really bad happened here, and you
The
are the guy.
cataclysm.
You are the bad thief. For the community, you are the bad guy. Not the thief community, but the inside the game world community, you are the bad guy. But you are actually doing good things to someone who is from your enemy party. And yeah, that it's very very well thought through with
Here
everything.
you are blessing Brother Mirus and sending him to the afterlife.
Yeah,
So
it shows that things are not black and white. Like the
I want.
ghost is friendly to you. Of course, he wants something from you, but still.
Yep. I want to make a confession. I didn't even know you could make the wine key until now. So call me a noob, but I didn't even know that. So now I'm gonna have to go back through and do that.
For me,
So
it was like when I
Shame
saw
on you, Jake.
when I
I
saw this.
know.
When I saw the 6 shapes, like, oh, I have to try. Okay, I know this is a door handle. Okay, I don't do that. But there's a key. What is that?
Yes. So hold on. Going back to fundamental game design. So do you remember Crag's Cleft, which also almost made my top 3?
That almost was on mine. Yeah, that was my other honorable mention.
Crag's Cleft shows you that you can manufacture things in Thief. You can
I
make
already-
hammers in Crag's Cleft.
I already mentioned that earlier. That in
I
mission
know.
2 you could do that.
But that's showing the lock before you show the key, right? So they show you in Crag's Cleft that you can make something, and then in the cathedral, it's a fundamental objective. That's
So-
amazing game
So
design.
you want to say the developers knew how to do it, but
Yeah.
they couldn't somehow in Thieves Guild. Yeah, I see. your
They knew
point.
what they were doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's a lot of
I think they were
setting it
just
up.
proud of the mechanic they implemented. So they were like, we have to use this again.
And
Because-
that happens too, for sure. But I still think, like, I think if you have the wherewithal to recognize that you've designed a mechanic that can be useful as an objective and then use it, I think that's worth mentioning and recognizing.
I agree. Yeah.
Yep, it's
Especially since we're talking about 1998, right? This is very early
Yeah.
for 3D games of the genre.
yeah. I
Thief
mean, we're
did a lot
still
of
early.
things. Did a lot of things I think that are still common or didn't become common, but they should have.
I agree. Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. Exactly. Things that are innovative that maybe should have become industry standards that sadly are not.
And because I always
Standard's a
think,
dangerous word.
they had really, the whole production of Thief was never easy. It almost didn't happen because they couldn't figure out the whole sound system and stuff. And but still, they put so much original things in there that it was really new in so many cases. Yeah, it's an amazing game. We should do an episode where we love Thief.
Yeah, I think we should.
Oh wait,
That's a good idea. Somebody should start a podcast about this series.
oh yeah.
That would be a good idea.
People should start creating fan missions.
What would you call it? Outside at Final?
No, I think you should call it like Taffercast.
Ooh.
Taffer Academy.
That was actually my first idea for naming it.
For real? Taffer Academy?
Taffercast or something like that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but then I was like, inside at last. It's like that quote that was stuck to my mind, and I love it. And
Very
that was
smooth. It's a smooth title. Goes down.
yeah, because it recognizes a famous quote from Garrett and from the first mission, and of course you can put it in your mind like inside at last. We're talking about the insides and blah 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 blah. You get the idea. I think people know already. So
So
yeah,
how many missions have we gone over? I've revealed 2 of my favorites.
I've done 1.5.
yeah,
1.5.
it's like because we had like overlapping ones. So I did all my 3.
Ah, you've showed your hand.
Interestingly, because you guys started, you made the first and second, and then I came with mine in the first round. So yeah, so what is left, guys?
So we have
Seth.
1.5 left. Jake, what was your
Yeah.
0.5?
Okay, so to finish up what I was saying, and sorry about that, guys, for the internet issues. I don't know what caused that, but anyway. So the reason, I guess it's maybe a bold statement why I like Ramirez's Manor more. I mean, if someone said they like Bafferds, I would understand, but I think one is because there's more ways in and out of Ramirez's Manor. You can go through the bedroom, you can go through the library, you can go through the front door, you can go through that little patio that I always forget about. So there's at least 4 ways in where
I forgot about the patio.
yeah, you can get in through the patio. I did too. I never go in that way, but you can go in that way too. You can go around the back and in the patio. So there's at least 4 ways in, whereas, I mean, Bafferds, you can go in the front door, but you're not really supposed to. And you kind of have to follow like the way they want you to get in the manor, which is fine because it's the first mission. It's more viable too in Ramirez's Manor, I think, to go through the front door because there's 2 guards, but then they go their separate ways and there's 1 guard at the door. I like that there's so many secrets in the mission. Like I said, I think I stated this before I got disconnected, but I like the idea of confronting Ramirez, and I think taking the pouch off his belt is really like the ultimate badass thief move.
I killed him.
You killed him? Oh,
I like assassinations.
I mean, that's what's so great about the game and the ways you can do it. We talked about that on the last episode, but
I'll show you, you Taffer.
exactly. So yeah, and I think that you also have more tools in your arsenal by the time you get to Assassins, because in the first mission you just have water arrows, and correct me if I'm wrong, but by this point you have moss arrows and lockpicks, right? So
Yep.
there's more tools to complete your objective by this point, whereas the game is still kind of easing you in when you do Baffords. So you don't have as many things you can use. You really could use moss arrows on that first mission, but I get why they didn't do it. I think that would have been overwhelming. So Yeah, that's kind of why I like Assassins and why I like it more than Baffords, but I still like Lord Baffords, and if someone said they preferred it, I would totally understand. But yeah, so just a great mission. Classic.
I hear ya. So that leaves us with Jake and I each have one mission left. So Alex, why don't you count us in, and we'll both say we'll say our remaining mission at the same time.
Yes. Let's do this.
3, 2, 1. Jake, let's go.
The sword.
The sword! Ah.
Perfect. How do I know?
This is, of course, the honorable mention. You guys aim for the obvious. Of course, the sword, but I don't go for that. It's so obvious.
Classics
So
for a reason.
for you, it's an honorable mention, but for us, it's a top pick. So I guess we should start by saying why for you it's an honorable mention. Why didn't you pick the sword?
For the same reason, because I was like, I'm pretty sure that these guys are going for low standards on choosing, so I was like, this will come up anyway, so I add another one, like Return to the Cathedral, which was a surprise, obviously. So
Hey,
That's
I was so close to putting Return to, like, that was my honorable mention. I was so close.
yeah, but that's where you see who's the old podcast grandfather.
You're doing it's a classic radio bit. You're setting up for a payoff.
Okay, so as an aside, something that has tortured me about Return to the Cathedral, just before we move on, is that you find a silver sword hilt at the beginning of Return to the Cathedral. I believe if you go to the left of the doors, there's a silver sword hilt on the ground. And I don't think anywhere else in all of Thief do you find a silver sword hilt. Did that bother anyone but me?
I have to replay it and see.
All the other sword hilts in Thief are copper/bronze. Even Garrett's sword is. So
Yeah.
This, as a very brief aside, something that I love about Thief is that none of the swords have pommels, and it implies to me that the world of Thief has advanced technologically to the point that they just cast all their sword hilts out of metal as one piece, which is kind of fun. So additionally, to find a silver sword hilt in the cathedral was a real treat to me, because it just sort of it confirmed this headcanon I created about the industrialization of weapon production in Thief. Anyways, sorry for that segue. But back to...
No, that's interesting. I didn't even notice that. See, that's a great observation that you noticed that.
It's in-world storytelling. It's great. I have long wanted to export the model for the sword hilt in Thief and 3D print it and then put my own blade on it just for fun. But I've never been able to export the model for myself, so maybe someone listening can help me with that.
I'm pretty sure there are some nerds.
This is some next level Taffer stuff. I love it.
Help me make a sword, listeners.
Nerd is not in a bad way, I just wanted to say.
Absolutely not.
I see us all as nerds.
So
enthusiast, I prefer enthusiast.
No, maybe then it's in a bad way. No,
no, I know. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no.
No, I was saying I see us as nerds, so maybe then it's in a bad way. That's what I meant. But yeah, guys.
So much to say.
Tell us the obvious.
I mean, the sword is one of the most surreal Thief missions, right?
Yeah, that's
what
the first thing I think of. Probably if I just summarize this as one word, it would be surreal.
If you look at the influences for Thief, if you look at the Third Man and the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, those are very obvious influences in the sword to me.
Yeah, it has some expressionist type styles, and this is this is kind of where the game finally started to click with me. I just remember shooting the rope arrow up into the ceiling, outside of Constantine's Trickster's mansion. Spoilers. And just being wow, this is awesome. Having rope arrows and introducing verticality. And then it was oh, this is, I love the mansion robberies. I did like Baffords and I loved Assassins. So I was oh, I like the mansion missions. And then coming into this, I was oh, it's going to be another, it's gonna be another mansion robbery. Like that's cool. That's cool. Like well,
It's just
I'm
another mansion
excited.
robbery. No problem.
Yeah, and then obviously like you get inside, and then it just slowly reveals itself to be this like Alice in Wonderland, like house of expressionist horrors and just weird things, and it's just is so great that this is what like the 9th or 10th mission, the third
No
mansion.
way. It's the 6th mission. It's literally the 50% mark in Thief. You're one
But-
mission past half point.
And like the game is still introducing like new ways to like subvert your expectations, right? Because I mean, nobody could have guessed that it would turn into what it turned into with that hallway with like the 3 doors, and 2 of them are small and one of them's big, and just all the little
Man,
things that are in
the
the
Green
mission.
Man door
Yeah, like
meme.
there's so much. There's just so much.
So, I mean, I guess in that way, Alex, I understand why you didn't pick the sword. It's an obvious standout, right? In the what, 13 missions of Thief? But I think in that way, it's, while being obvious, it's also like the one you have to pick, in that it's the halfway mark of the campaign. It's such a departure from normal game design and from the conventions that Thief has presented to you so far. But it still obeys all of its in-world rules, in that like there's nothing you can't do with the tools you've been given. It's just a twist. And in that way, I find the sword to be like a really good example of teach test twist, where like you teach the player how to use the tools, you test their ability to use the tools you're given, and then you twist it in an unexpected way and ask the player to employ all the tools they've been given in a novel way.
Yeah, especially once you get to the actual sword itself, like that chamber around it, like there's so much, if you go a certain way, there's so much marble, so you make so much noise, and you really need to save your moss arrows, and or you need to be really clever about how you get around there. So yeah, that's a good point. That
I think in that way,
3 T's.
the 3 T's. I think that the chamber around the sword is actually the weakest part of the sword. Forgive me for immediately quoting it as an influential mission and then shooting myself in the foot by saying part of it is bad. But like I think those hallways are bad in that they're just a straight gauntlet full of guards, and there's not a lot of nuance in how you actually take the sword. But I think the lead up to that, that confluence of pathways is amazing. I think that like presenting the player with, as with Assassins, an ostensibly simple mission, an in and out mission, and then subverting their expectation by providing them with a mission that is way more than it seems and more than they bargained for is great. Especially as Garrett, right? Like Garrett is constantly complaining that he's getting more than he bargained for, and the sword is kind of a perfect example of that, right?
I agree with what you said. Like in a way, I also think that the top chamber where the sword is, that area around it, is the weakest, because I think you mentioned this, but it's like there's multiple ways in and out of there, but there's kind of like one way that's like the best. But like getting there's multiple ways. So like getting to like the top area, there's so many different ways, and that's awesome because there isn't one correct way. But like once you're like near the sword in like sort of the upper floor, the area surrounding it, like there's a couple ways there, but like why would you walk across all that marble? Like you're not going to have enough moss arrows, so there's no way you can do it. So I find that when you actually get to the sword, there is only like one good way to like actually grab it. So I agree, it's probably the weakest part of the mission, but getting there is A plus.
Can you mantle the plinth underneath the sword without no
can.
mantle?
With I don't know. That's a good question.
I don't remember. I think the first time I played Thief, I walked into that room and I saw the plinth and I jumped at it and missed and couldn't climb it.
Yeah, that would make sense. Like I remember in New Dark, you can definitely climb up there and grab the sword.
Yeah, now you can. I think in New Dark you can even climb like the geometric rings that are floating around. So like those add a platforming dimension that wasn't there in the original.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question, because again, that would even reinforce the point of not having those options to actually get the sword in the original version versus New Dark.
I also think so. Here's something I realized like relatively late in the game. Did either of you notice that the Constantine guards are the ape guards?
I did. Yeah. Once I went back through, I noticed. Yeah, I noticed that they have like the same outfit on, right?
I didn't notice that first playthrough. Like, I recognized they used the same color palette, but it didn't occur to me that they were the same guards transformed.
Interesting. Now that I think of it, yeah.
Yeah, look at the belt. Look at from the waist down, they're exactly the same. So I didn't notice that the first time I played through, but like on subsequent playthroughs, that's an amazing like little bit of story. Like that's visual storytelling at its best, right? They introduce this manor. It's clearly designed by Lewis Carroll. It's an Alice in Wonderland manor, and then like to boot, the guards are also not human, and you find that out like a mission later.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to go like with the whole theme of it too, like I don't know how you felt about this, Seth or Alex, you can jump in. But like when I got to that part where it's like you're out in like outer space when like the map doesn't like exist, I
Yeah,
thought that was a glitch when I first played the game. I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "Is something wrong? Did the level not load in?" But then I
I
found out
was
that that was intentional.
yeah, I was going to mention that earlier. Like, let's appreciate for a moment that Constantine has a space pit in his mansion.
Yeah, like that was such a good like kind of pulling the player's leg there with like, it looks like it's something that shouldn't be there, but it's completely intentional.
Well, what does this mean for Thief? Like, does this mean that like certain people can bend the laws of space and time?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last episode,
He's
but
a
like,
he's a god.
yeah, that's the thing though. Is like
Ostensibly,
this mission, like we talked about last episode, and this mission brings up too, like the limits of his powers are not quite clear, and that's probably a good thing, because you don't want to over-explain. But like, is he still alive? Like, can he bend like time and space? Like, because if he can be killed, then you would think that maybe not, because like, why would you allow yourself to be killed if you can bend reality to your will? So it's very interesting.
At this point, you don't know, you know, who this house belongs to.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You just
sure.
know Constantine's an eccentric rich guy, so like maybe this is just the Winchester House of Thief Mansions.
Yeah, and so now in hindsight, of course, you can ask many questions, but the first time you are there, you don't ask those questions. It's just a very strange place, and you're wondering like what's going on here. But I think at this point you don't make the connection that is revealed afterwards. Um, for I didn't say much through your talk. I have the problem that yes, you have replayed this mission a lot. Everybody has because it's so outstanding. But for me, to be honest, I don't know. Uh, I can imagine like for the creators, this was huge fun to create this. But for me, it's like, yeah, you punched everything in there that came to your mind that wouldn't make sense in the normal world you tried to create. And now you're going nuts with it. And yes, of course, in hindsight, you have the limitation of the engine, and they have beautiful places, especially that tunnel, where you have those, uh, uh, those blocky
Floors
things.
on the ceiling.
No, that's so
Oh, you mean the
unclear.
one where it's kind of like looks like it's sort of like bending,
It's a
like it's sort of
spiral.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
and that's amazing. And of course, suddenly you're like in space or something. That's cool. But then it's like, oh yeah, let's put tables on the ceiling. um, I totally know. It's 1998, and it's an amazing mission. But I have seen it. I'm done with that mission.
So,
It's I'm overdosed.
so you'd say maybe for you to maybe sort of put it in a different way, like it's a mission where it's based on like thrills and frills, and it's maybe for you maybe lacks some substance, like that. In other words, like the gimmick of the mansion, like as you replay it, kind of loses its luster. You would say?
Yes, kind of. As I say, like back in the days, and I can totally see that it's still on so many top crazy level lists. which I totally agree. And I think it could have been an inspiration for, especially in Dishonored 2, where you have like two very special mentions.
Oh yeah.
And stuff like that. Amazing. And what it did, and of course in the story, and it does so many amazing things. I don't want to, put it down. I know
No,
how
I don't
no,
think
amazing
this
you're
is
it
putting
is.
good.
it down. I
No,
think
this
it's
is
fair.
good.
But as I said, it's like it's such an obvious choice for me. So for me, it's like to find more of the fine details and more grounded missions. And yeah, this is just like a playground for designers and then for the player, and
I think
it's a point. Sorry,
no, it's fine.
like let's be creative, and ha ha ha. But I think creativity, I can appreciate it more when it's within borders that are clear, like believable borders and stuff like that. And here it's like, mm, you know, have a magic bag with a black hole in it,
So I was going to ask, what do you both think of the addition that Thief Cold made, which is adding the tiny, huge,
Little Big World
Little Big World,
with the
Little
couch
Big
cushion
Planet.
coin.
That's actually my favorite part.
I bet. Yeah, I love that bit.
and,
I
and and
think
that room that ends, like, it gets smaller and stuff like that.
I think that the sword is a great character introduction to someone who you don't know you're going to meet.
Definitely.
know?
Yes, of course. And it shows, like, okay, like when you meet him and it's his house, you're like, okay, what is this
Son of a
guy?
bitch. It all makes sense. Yeah, I think that it's a great character introduction for the trickster.
Well,
But we
yeah, and when
don't-
you go back through it, it just becomes like one of those things. Like, you become so much more clear, obviously, once you know, and then you're like, oh, this is obvious. Like, it's one of those things where when it's first presented to you, it's not obvious, but then having like the key, it becomes like, oh, how did I not notice this before? Like, how did I not think of this before? Like, the fact that there's all this nature stuff, and the fact that there's nature, his mansion is nature kind of taking over technology in some ways, like especially when you get to the greenhouse and stuff like that, and the upper floors, because it's those tunnels are all green and it's all grass and vines and things like that, and it's kind of taking over, swallowing the mansion. So it's like, oh, of course, he's the pagan god of nature and chaos.
I don't even think it's clear. I think that's one of the strengths of the sword, though, is like it's grounded enough that like it's clearly a mansion. It's clearly like an opulent living space, but it's also like it's just weird enough that you don't realize it's the trickster's mansion. Like the trickster's been mentioned before. We've played. Like we know the Hammerites are opposed to the trickster. We know they don't like him. We know that he's sort of like the antagonist um, in the in the interplay between the two major religions of the thief world. But like we don't know this is the trickster's living space when we first play through it. And I think that's something great that you realize on subsequent playthroughs. It doesn't click the first time you play. You're just like, this is a weird as fuck place. When am I going to get out of here? How am I going to escape this space? How am I going to find the sword I'm supposed to get? Why is this place 6 or 7 stories high, and why can't I find my way through it? But on the second playthrough, after you beat the game, it clicks, and you're like, all right, so this is the trickster's playground.
Yeah, but you don't think of like, oh, this must be the trickster's playground. This he's mentioned, yes, but at that point you don't. You just see him as a god that is like maybe made up by the Hammerites, and it's. I think that's the problem. We have those afterthoughts, and now we know everything. From nowadays, and
Yeah,
we
first
don't make that connection.
playthroughs are very different than subsequent playthroughs. Big benefit of hindsight, right? After you've played through it once and you play through it a second time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely like one of those missions I think is gets stronger, at least from a story standpoint, after you play it, because you get to like look at everything that you've seen in like a different way and read all the readables in a different way. And yeah, I mean, it's I think it's it's beloved for a reason, but I do like, Alex, that you presented sort of a devil's advocate, countervailing like viewpoint about it. I think that's really important and really interesting to hear.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
I'm not a fan of. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say to finish up. I'm not a big fan of the. I don't hate it, but I'm not as big of a fan of the Little Big world as much.
Um,
So.
I think I totally give it credit. I think it's one of the most creative missions of Thief in some way, but I don't think it's one of the best because what you have to do is not really interesting. You just have to travel travel through this maze, and then, in my opinion, the ideas. I don't want to say they get repetitive, but it's like, oh yeah, I could imagine that something like this would also be coming, And there we see the tunnel I was just describing. And here's the space part I was describing. And
Oh baby,
yeah, and
and the spiral, all right next to each other.
yeah, but the what you do is not really interesting. You're just traversing through this maze, and yes, of course they added some interesting architecture and places, but on the end it's like, yeah, it doesn't connect you. No, don't get me wrong, but not everybody could throw this together. But as I said, I like it more if you are creative in a more down to earth setting and add something there, like Return to the Cathedral, in my opinion.
I think there are areas of the sword that like haven't been through enough iterations, right? Like there are some areas where the use of textures is not at its best. But I think that the level overall is like a great showcase for what a subversive Thief fan mission can be. And going back to Undercover, the sword is also a mission that is kind of reused, right? Like we see, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Constantine's meeting room, his office, if you will, where he has that desk, where Garrett's eye is stolen. Major spoilers. But like we see that area in the sword, and then we see it again in Escape, and it's almost one's inclination when you wake up in Escape to go check the door you've been through already and see if you can just leave through the front door. But of course, Artemis, who woke you up and is like, "Yo, Garrett, you have to do the stuff," he's like, he locks the door behind him or whatever.
That's what I said in my Let's Play. Like, hey,
Yeah.
he locked the door. Like,
What the hell, Artemis?
Let him travel an area he doesn't know.
Yeah, Artemis really screws you over there. He's clearly not the friend we all think he is. But yeah, I think in that way, it kind of shows. It shows it's a bait, right? It shows you an area that you think you'll easily escape from, and then it kind of throws you out of your head and says, "Haha, you actually have to go through the place you haven't been yet, the place, the door you wanted to open in your first playthrough, but you couldn't."
In the mission after, there again, it shows that they put so many enemies in there to make it difficult. That yeah, it's a great mission, and it has its place in history. I totally agree, but from from what I like about Thief, this is totally not Thief 2. So you can imagine, like, that this is not my mission.
Yeah, I love Thief 2 more as well. And so I like the more grounded approach, but for some reason the sword just works for me. Although, like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, wow, I would definitely change like the top floor. There's too many guards. There's too much marble.
I mean, there
I
are
wouldn't make
things that
it
I would
easy,
change
but
about this level too. I don't think it's a perfect level. I just think, as an original mission, it inspired so many subsequent fan missions too that are like
Definitely, yeah.
of good stock that it's hard to ignore as an influential original mission.
and there's so many parts of the mansion for me that like I love. Like I love like the greenhouse in that area. I like the little bar. I like there's so much of it. I like you
I think the
mentioned
greenhouse.
Constantine's office.
Yeah, I think the greenhouse is an area that like I think the greenhouse inspired areas in Into the Odd, right? The 20th anniversary mission.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
So I think you can definitely feel the echoes of the sword in like tons of subsequent missions.
Yeah, where they don't belong in a Thief 2 context. um, yeah, yeah, but as I said, it earns its place.
So, Alex, did you go over why you didn't like the sword? I know that you said it was obvious, but was there anything like when you were playing through that occurred to you that was like a big turnoff?
Yeah, it doesn't have like, of course it has that. Of course, the whole thing is like based around like, okay, the whole mission makes you curious. Who am I working for, or who place is it I'm in? But I don't know. There's nothing within the mission that makes me curious.
Man, I have such a hard time relating to that
I
because the
mean,
whole mission made me curious.
no, that's what I said. Of course, because of the whole mission, you think the whole time like, what is going on here? But there's nothing to follow inside the mission. Like, oh, this gets my attention now.
There's no breadcrumb trail.
Right, and that's my Thief thing. What I love, like when there are those interesting stories inside, and
Yeah, I guess it's the one Thief fan mission or Thief fan mission. Oh my god, it's the one original mission that doesn't have all that many conversations.
Yeah, the
ag-
guards are surprisingly mum for the most part.
yeah, yeah. Well, what should they say? I think there was, of course, yeah. Now that you said it, they are ape beasts. In
Yeah, they're the eight beasts in
costume.
disguise, so it makes sense that they don't talk all that much.
Yeah,
I think if they had a conversation, it would have been. I mean, I guess this is the question, and it's not explained. Why do the guards appear as guards to Garrett in your first visit to Constantine's Manor, but as eight beasts in the second? Is it that Garrett is charmed and doesn't realize they're eight beasts, or is it that they're wearing a disguise? Right? Because they sound like guards in the first visit. They don't talk like eight beasts. But if they had a conversation with one another, would they talk like eight beasts?
You know what? If you're making up this, why is this god in quotes not able to get the items Garrett has to receive for him?
See, I don't think he's a god at all, but that's just
Yeah, but he's able to build a mansion like that, and maybe he's just mumbling with your mind, and there are ape beasts, but you see them as guards, maybe in your interpretation. So, but why is this guy not able to gain the artifacts? And he is able to destroy the Hemorrhoids Cathedral in
Which
second place,
does
but
that-
he's not able to get
does that say worse things about him or the Hammerites, though? Does that mean the builder doesn't exist and so he can desecrate their holy places, or does
No,
that say that he's so bad he can mess them up?
This guy should be able to blast through the cathedral's doors or window or whatever, and get the eye.
Maybe that implies that the eye is more powerful than Constantine.
But the eye didn't, or the keepers are, because they
Well,
shut down the cathedral.
Exactly. The keepers knew how to keep the eye out of everyone's reach.
So yeah, but
It takes a
That's-
keeper to beat a keeper.
Good point.
yeah. So I don't know.
So the sword, a highly contentious but lauded original mission.
But I think the sword was a good last mission we talked about. I think because it's one of the high regarded missions, and I think it was good that we did this discussion at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there will have something to say after we conclude, right? Like, everyone has an opinion on the sword, good or bad.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
most have a good one, and I also have a good opinion of the mission, But now, after my playthrough in comparison, I think there are other missions that are better. And I don't say only name the Thief Gold ones. I think even without those missions, but yeah, at that time it was amazing and very impressive.
Yeah, it's a good mix too between the weird side of Thief Gold and also the more side of Thief that would be revealed in Thief 2.
I'm curious. What was everyone's runner-up mission? Shall we just spit them out all at once?
Yeah, I picked 2 for my runners up, and
So
Haunted
did I.
Cathedral. Haunted Cathedral nearly made my list. That was the one that was kind of knocking on the door the hardest, and then also I picked Break from Crag's Cleft.
Interesting. I almost picked Crag's Cleft as well, and Return to the Cathedral was a close second. I actually picked Bonehorde and Lost City for my runners-up.
Ooh. I knew that was going to get a reaction. I knew it.
Is it Bonehorde or Lost City?
Lost City is
Lost City is the strange flavor that you get at the ice cream shop, and all your friends look at you. And
Let's do an episode about the worst missions, and then we talk about this. Yeah?
That's a clear opinion. Maybe a runners-up episode is in order.
Because I think we should come to an end pretty soon. So getting into this discussion, this would take so much of everybody's time.
But Alex, what were your runners-up?
I'm just looking over the list. Crag's Cleft was kind of special. I had, of course, the Sword of my honorable mention and Baffert. So those 2 would be, I think. Strange Bedfellows was also interesting, I think.
I almost put that on my list as well, but I didn't want to repeat it after Undercover.
Yeah, but Strange Bedfellows was very interesting. But again, the problem with so many enemies, walking the same path. You could just stand in one shadow and wait for
catch all enemies,
3, 4, 5 monkeys to knock them out. But yeah, it was a cool mission, especially that you suddenly helping the Hemorrhoids and then they help you, and yeah, it was cool.
All right, so I guess that's a potential future episode. Contentious, as opposed to top 3 favorite, top 3 contentious original missions.
One thing, like, what is interesting is that after Garrett has lost his eye, he still has full vision. I wonder how they could have implemented that, but that is a thing for another episode.
Indeed, and that came up both when I played Thief for the first time and when my friend played Thief for the first time. We both mentioned, like, why did they not do a level where that's leveraged?
Yeah, like, I don't know, that just half of your screen where you can see something, or it
could feel unfair.
Or
fan mission idea.
Oh, what mission was it with the blinking where you? It was the gods.
Godbreaker.
Godbreaker, yeah. Where
I started Godbreaker and didn't finish it.
Oh yeah, and prepare for that one mission.
All right.
Where you are.
I've got homework to do.
Yeah, or you listen to our podcast with Randy Teffer, as I call him. Yeah. But yeah, anything you guys want to add?
Not specifically, but are we going to do a top 3 Thief 2 missions podcast?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so, because we are we just occasionally do original mission episodes. So
you're going through that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I guess that's a community engagement survey, right? Who wants us to do top 3 Thief 2 missions? Or should we just carry on?
I think you two won. Suddenly,
I might like to do it. I wrote the list.
Many different new people appear to the community and they vote for it.
I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, let's find out. Yeah, so it was a pleasure again. And yeah, in my opinion,
as always.
Great, interesting episode. And let's see what our next idea will be.
All right, Tappers.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for your kind words and messages and support. I try to read everything when I can, so when it's all appreciated, all warms my heart.
It's good to see a few of you in chat.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
So, thanks for listening, Teffers. Bye bye.
How many guards do they have in here anyway?